birth. That policy has been credited with slashing childhood cases of hepatitis B, protecting newborns from a virus that can lead to chronic liver disease. Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani announcing he will end citywide sweeps of homeless encampments when he takes office, reversing the policy under current Mayor Eric Adams. Mamdani said his administration will instead prioritize connecting unhoused New Yorkers to supportive or rental housing, arguing that sweeps alone without securing real homes fail to address homelessness. And police continue to look for a couple guys wanted in connection with a string of robberies where they ride on their mopeds, go up to victims, grab jewelry, chains, or other high-priced items, then speed away. We did get some new video. This is one of the people they want to look at. You can see they sort of obscure their appearance with that motorcycle helmet. But if you know who this is, NYPD would definitely love to talk to you. All right, let's do some more World Cup, which, by the way, maybe you've heard if we've done our job, is going to be aired on Fox 5 this summer. I think you know that by now, right? Hopefully. We've been doing our thing on that front. Jen Williams, why don't you move on over here, and let's talk about today's draw. So it seems like universal takeaway is that this was a good draw for the U.S. because you can get stuck in the wrong category and have a really much more difficult road.
And look, I don't want to jinx the Stars and Stripes. Not only good, but a winnable draw. Again, for a win, they get 3 points. For a draw, they get 1 point. For a loss, they get 0 points. They emerged out of the draw in Qatar in 2022 with 5 points, having drew with both Wales and England and beating Iran. And look, so we know their first match is going to be Paraguay on Friday, June 12th at SoFi Stadium, the home of the Los Angeles
Such a cool stadium, to that massive, massive new stadium.
Yeah, and look, they're going to be starting out west and slowly moving their way to the east of the United States, where the final, if again, what, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to jinx them, but obviously
the finale will be at MetLife regardless.
Regardless. And so, look, this is a team. Paraguay, for example, is a team they beat last month 2-1 in a friendly. They also in their draw is Australia, another team they beat 2-1 last month in a friendly. And then there's going to be the winner of Playoff C. There are 22 teams that are going to be in a playoff format. And so the Playoff C, it's Kosovo, Romania, Slovakia, or Turkey. And so one of those teams will round out Group D. But again, Team USA was ranked 14th by FIFA. They are the top seed in their group, and this is a very, not only emerging, but a group that they can win. But again, this team hasn't gone very far before, and I don't want to jinx them. I just think that this is a team that's building momentum from the last World Cup. They exceeded expectations, and again, you also don't want to set the bar so high because there's also been talk like, hey, it's win is the only result.
Sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't want to put them right in the finale just by the draw in and of itself, for sure. But it is fascinating seeing how far soccer has come in America. We were talking about one of the guests on at 6 o'clock, that the sports writer we had on. I do remember the 1994 World Cup, and at the time it seemed like everyone knew this is an investment in making soccer popular in the U.S. This is going to be a long road. It's going to take a while. We're going to have to get people into a sport that in a lot of ways Americans were resistant to. And in the 30-plus years, we have seen soccer come such an incredible distance.
Right.
It really has grown in popularity. I think of all my friends' kids, the 10, 15, 20 years old. They are massive soccer fans. We all played soccer when I was growing up, but we weren't watching it as a sport, for sure.
Well, and I think what helps is you have your Messis, you have your Cristiano Ronaldos, and you have your Mbappes. But now Team USA has guys like Christian Pulisic, who is a world star, a very recognizable name from Pennsylvania's own. And again, 2018, the Team USA did not qualify, and that can set you back. And they made quite a run in 2022. Again, I actually think when the expectations are off a little bit and they exceed expectations, we've seen it with some New York teams. When the pressure is off, they seem to rise to the occasion. And to your point, I remember Alexi Lawless, Rutgers grad, he said that when he played in the United States in 1994, they would get off the bus and no one would recognize them. This is not going to happen this time around. So again, it's just really incredible to see. And just, again, I think what the key this time around is you have guys like a Christian Pulisic, he plays for AC Milan. You have some of these guys that can hold their own on some of these in the European teams, on Bundesliga, and again, it makes them more of a world star.
Yeah,
well.
and of course, the further the U.S. goes, the more popular this is going to be in the U.S., which is just going to further make the sport more popular here in the U.S. So it begins in mid-June, ends in late July, and we've got about 180-something days countdown. We've been seeing that number on the site, so it should be exciting. It's funny watching everybody here bundled up, knowing that, as we all know now, MetLife Stadium in July gets awful hot.
I was thinking what's funny is it was like there were some snowflakes today, and I'm like, that's American football weather, right? If it's snowing a little bit. Yeah, it gets really hot in July. And the last host country to actually win the World Cup was France back in 1998. And again, Team USA, look, you know what stat boggles my mind? Only 8 teams have ever won the World Cup. 8 countries, excuse me. And obviously, it's a title that's eluded Team USA. And I, again, don't want to jinx anything. But again, I think what we love about sports is when it comes to this stage, anything can happen. And there's a lot of Cinderella stories. There's a few teams making their debuts. We've got Uzbekistan, Curacao, Cape Verde, Jordan. They're making their debuts. There's a few teams. One dark horse, Norway, hasn't been in the World Cup since 1998, and they are on everyone's radar. There's a few dark horses, Japan, Colombia. So again, I think you can always root for your home country, and then also a Cinderella can emerge. I know Qatar made a run in 2022, and that was very exciting.
Yeah, we're all from somewhere else ultimately too, so
Morocco,
we go to your home.
Tarek
pulling from Morocco over here, right off camera. That's right. That's the thing. We've got our ancestors from other places, so that's another whole element to this thing.
I'm always rooting for the Italians.
That's super fun. And it's one before we let you go. 48 teams this year, which is 12 more than last time, right?
Yes. And again, that format allows some of these teams to, the quote-unquote Cinderella teams, to be able to, and again, anything can happen. We say it in American football, any given Sunday, anything can happen on this stage, whether it's an incredible goal that goes viral, and it gives these countries, it's just an incredible experience for these athletes, these countries. And, I always say with tennis, you go to the U.S. Open and you can hear every language being spoken, and everyone's united by their love of tennis. Of course, they're rooting for certain players, but the same goes for the World Cup.
Yeah, with social media and everything, is undoubtedly we're going to have some massive new star be crowned as a result of performing at a high level on the world's greatest stage. As we take a look at Lionel Messi. Very exciting stuff. All right, Jen, we appreciate it. We are looking forward to it. The countdown is on. It's on Fox 5. We just have to hope the World Cup doesn't interfere with Fish summer tour schedule. That's my only concern at this point. Hopefully they'll tour later in the summer. All right.
Fish should do the halftime. First time ever there's going to be a halftime show.
Oh, I like that.
At MetLife in the final. So maybe Fish.
Hopefully they don't mind 30-minute jams. The audience might get bored. I wouldn't, though. I would love it. All right.
So they'll go over the usual 15 minutes.
Like, all right,
yeah.
Give them the hook. Give them the hook. All right, Jen, we appreciate it. So that's the latest in the World Cup. Newsroom Live continues in 2 minutes. We'll be right back. We are live here on Newsroom Live, Friday night, cold night heading into the weekend. Lots of World Cup excitement. I'm joined now by Emily Antonucci, someone I met under fascinating circumstances. Emily, thank you so much for joining us. I want to give everybody the backstory here. So it was Marathon Sunday. I was around the corner from the station. I was just shooting some video. I always like to get a little bit of video just for my personal files. And this was the video I shot. I saw the big cat head in the distance. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Then I saw a baby go up in the air. I saw another baby go up in the air. And then shortly you're going to see Emily herself walk into the frame here, hug her family. And I said, well, wow, what a lovely moment that was. I could see from her sweatshirt she's wearing. I said, all right, her name's Emily. I got some info off this sign. I think we've got a baby Isla. She may have run Chicago. And so I put this on social media and I said, hey, you know, I've got this amazing video. I had no way to get across the street. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this video to the family. This was a lovely thing. If anyone knows who this Emily is, please reach out to me. Then I actually heard back from Emily herself. We followed each other. I was able to get her the full uncut version of this video, which was so lovely. And then now we're following each other, and I see she's writing a children's book as well. So anyway, Emily, I'm having a little problem with audio here, but we're going to go through this. We're going to do this regardless. So Emily, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay,
it's so
perfect.
Great
I can hear you in the background there a little bit. So first off, walk me through your marathon experience this year. It looked like it was lovely running conditions, and as I said, I caught that amazing family moment, which you were so happy to get the video of that, because that's such a wonderful moment with you surrounded by your family. Who was I capturing there in that video?
First of all, thank you so much for that video and for having me today. It was a beautiful day. It was a dream come true. I've been wanting to run the New York City Marathon for 5 years at this point. And I essentially was able to see my family at mile 16 on First Avenue. And my cousin was there, my niece was there, my parents, my husband, my baby, and my cousin, my nephew as well, and my brother. Just a lot of different people that were there. And what was beautiful is you actually captured me right in front of my first apartment in New York City. So it was a very full circle moment, yes, for me. Yes, right on 66th and First.
You had that prearranged spot, and I'm assuming they were tracking you on the Marathon app. Is that what was going on there?
Yes, they were tracking me. That was the first time I saw them the entire race. So just a lot of emotions coming off of the Queensboro onto First Avenue, and then to see my family. It was something that you really captured, and I am so grateful for that.
It's so we're looking right now at your daughter. She does not want mama to get out of her sight. You unfortunately had to keep running like 8 more miles. What was it like leaving that scene and grinding out the rest of the marathon? How did you hold up?
It gave me life at that moment to see my family, to hug my daughter, give her a kiss. It was hard to leave her, though, because I knew that I had another 8 miles to go, and all I wanted to do was just go be with my family. But yeah, it really gave me the life that I needed to continue and finish strong. So
that's
very
great.
special.
Yeah, that's always my thought. That's where I tend to watch the marathon from, and I see everybody go by there, and I'm like, wow, they still got a longer run than I could probably do. To go from here is such a big event, such an amazing accomplishment. So then, and then of course, so I followed you, and then I saw, I knew you were a newish mother, and then you popped up with the children's book, which I also thought was great. So walk us through. We have some elements here that we're just going to put up on the screen. Walk us through the premise. So it's called Little Girls in the Big Wide World, which I love. I've got a 5-year-old daughter, so you had me hooked right from the get-go. And I know there is an element of your grandmother and just sort of trying to teach women the right lessons as they head through life, which is so great.
Yes. So I wrote this book in 2023, actually, before I knew that I was going to have a baby girl, which is also very special and interesting how it all worked out. Mm-hmm. And I essentially thought of the concept after hiking a very challenging hike in California, Yosemite Half Dome. And I thought, you know what, this is a really challenging feat that we just completed. And it was such a beautiful place to do it. And I realized that there's a message to be had there that I wanted to share with the world. So the goal of the book really is to teach young readers, young girls, young boys, that they can really follow their dreams, dream big, and have big ambitions in their life. And so I thought of really using all the different loved ones in my life that have inspired me in different ways, and use them as characters. And obviously my grandmother, my late grandmother, is one of the characters in the book, and I wish she could have been able to read it, but she really teaches those young girls that they could find beauty everywhere and that they can dream big, and use those 3 examples of all the different lessons that they learned when they went to all the different places across the different continents.
Oh, that's so amazing. That speaks to me for sure. It's going to be so cool, too, as your daughter gets older, to be able to see that you wrote this book for her. She's going to know how much you cared for her and sort of the lessons you were imparting in her from before she could remember. So this, where can we get a copy of this book? Is this on Amazon? Is that where I saw it?
So it's 2 places right now online. So Amazon is one, and then actually Lorelai's for Littles, which is out of Rhode Island, .com. So it's actually a boutique in Newport, Rhode Island, and she put it online as well too. So both places there, and I hope that others around the world have the opportunity to read it, see it, and inspire their young readers.
That's amazing. I mean, you know, it's funny, this world we live in, we hear so much, rightfully so, about the negative part of social media, but these moments like this where we just sort of came into each other's world, we're able to interact a little bit, I think it's so cool. That was fun. That was sort of the best of the online world we live in these days. It's been so fun to actually be able to connect with you and now actually talk with you for the first time, person to person. So amazing. We want everyone to check out the book, Emily Antonucci, and the title is Little Girls in the Big, Big World. Amazing stuff. Emily, so nice to finally talk to you. A former fellow Upper East Sider, too, right around here, the corner from the station. Yeah. Amazing stuff. Yeah. Thanks so much, Emily. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. All right. That was fun, huh? Newsroom Live. A woman I just happened to see on the marathon day, speaking to her about her new children's book. Very cool stuff. All right. We're going to be right back in 2 minutes on this Friday night. All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live. Friday night, 7:23 p.m., a cool night after a very frigid start to the day, getting a little preview of winter. I know it's meteorological winter, but not astronomical winter. One starts the first day of the month, the other one starts on December 21st. Regardless, it is the holidays, and it is feeling like winter out here in the city if you are joining us from somewhere else in the country. All right, so yesterday on the 6 o'clock news, we had the great opportunity to sit down with an artist. His name's Devin Rodriguez. He grew up in the Bronx, and he rose to fame in 2020 from these amazing sketches of people he would draw on the subway. He'd film the whole process, then hand it over to people at the end. He blew up on social media, millions and millions of followers. I just checked his account. He's got 9.5 million on Instagram. I think he said he had like 30 million plus on TikTok, to give you just an idea of how big this guy is and what a massive following he has. He's a really great person. He is partnered with this charity called Smile Train. What they do is they raise money to perform cleft palate surgeries on children in different countries. I think he went to Colombia as part of his mission and work with the charity, and he spoke with us more about his work and his rise to fame.
Welcome back. Devin Rodriguez shot to internet fame in 2020, sketching portraits of commuters just riding the subway. Now one of the world's most famous artists is giving back. Recently, he partnered with the Smile Train, the charity known worldwide for funding cleft surgery.
All right, Devin joins us now to tell us about his trip that he says was truly life-changing. Devin, thanks for being with us here.
Of course.
Amazing stuff. We're such fans. It is incredible. We're just joking off camera. It's nice to see people go viral for having talent
For the right
and doing things good for humanity. And certainly this new charity you're involved with is fantastic. Walk us through the surgeries they do and how they're able to change people's lives.
Yeah, so Smile Train is the biggest organization in the world for cleft care, and they just invited me to Medellin, Colombia, and it was an amazing trip. I was in the hospitals interacting with these kids, drawing a bunch of kids and trying to raise funds. It was such an honor for me because since 1999, they've raised funds for over 2 million surgeries all over the world in over 75 countries.
That's incredible, and it's life-changing, those kinds of surgeries too. So tell us about what you do in terms of making the art.
Okay, so I love to draw portraits ever since I was young. I drew portraits, and I grew up in the Bronx, and social media changed my entire life and took me out of poverty and brought me to great places. So I like to use my platform to give back since it's given me so much. And yeah, so Smile Train is the perfect partnership with me because I love to make people smile on the train. So I thought, like, oh, this is perfect. Like, let me help, you know, be a small part in raising funds for them, you know.
Yeah, no, it is. What was it like when you finally went viral? Because I guess when you're doing the sketches, you're posting them online, so you're not opposed to going viral, to getting bigger, to getting followers. We all want followers. What were you like when it actually started taking off? You're like, oh my God, this is happening.
I couldn't believe it. It was something that I always wanted to manifest. I would always envision myself as being this big artist, no matter how, you know, poor we grew up, no matter how I didn't have any resources. And, you know, social media is such a great thing because if you have the talent, anyone could go viral. So, you know, I grew up with my grandma. I didn't have a father, and, you know, my mom was abusive, but I always told myself, like, you know, I don't need the fancy art school. I'll go to public school, get on Instagram, and make it happen. And somehow it worked out.
And how many followers do you have now?
On TikTok, I have like 33 million, and then Instagram like 9 million or something
That's
like that.
amazing.
That is wild.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
crazy.
Really, you're so inspirational. Do you have a special moment when you were drawing one of the kids and a moment that stood out to you?
Yeah, there was this one kid, Emmanuel. He loved to draw too, and he was showing. We were like in his house and interacting with his mom, and he was showing us his artwork, and he was saying, you know, this story about how he always wanted to be famous, and you know how Smile Train gave him, you know, the confidence to keep going forward, and how he wants to be a big artist. And it just reminded me of myself, and I just my eyes got so watery.
Yeah, it's so emotional.
Yeah, the picture we've been showing of you two, it is so lovely. So for your artwork, you know, how does it move when you get famous? You're doing the sketches on the subway, and then you get a massive following. Where does it go from there? Where are you taking your career going forward?
What's the next level?
So my next thing is, like, I interview celebrities while drawing them, and people on the street, and also I have a memoir coming out. It's called Work in Progress. So yeah, coming soon. I have this memoir about my life story, and yeah, I don't know what's next. I didn't expect any of this to happen, so you know, whatever comes, I'm excited.
Amazing.
It's incredible. It is so hard to get a following as an artist, so it's an amazing thing you're doing.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
Well, great to see you again.
Thank you,
You always come in here, you brighten us all up, so we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was an honor.
Welcome back.
All right, talk about making it happen. Amazing. Devin Rodriguez, great stuff. All right, we'll be right back with more Newsroom Live in just a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live, taking a live look at Times Square Friday night. This is the view from Long Island City. Clear but cool out, and we got off to a very cold start this morning. As Nick told us, we were in store for, boy, a little taste of winter. It is funny, the whole meteorological, astronomical thing. Get to lay on the shtick extra heavy here on Newsroom Live.
I like
I got my scarf.
Make a fashion statement
This
here.
is me this morning. I was like, it's so cold. It's so cold. I don't want to
Walking
go
the
out.
dog was quite a pleasure.
Oh boy, that was a quick one. Yeah, but my dog loves this
Oh, yes.
weather.
Of course
He's like,
they
take
do.
me to the park. And I'm
Of
like,
course
all
they
right,
do.
all
Yeah,
right.
sure.
Yeah.
So,
We
well, it
both
was-
got poodle doodles, so we
we
know
do.
that.
We do. And it was cold. I mean, it was 20, the low in Manhattan this morning. So
And a
definitely.
lot colder further out.
Yes,
You got,
we
yeah.
had single digits as we were expecting in the northern suburbs. We get down to 6 at Poughkeepsie. We get down to 2 below at your favorite spot,
Monticello.
Monticello.
It's so funny that that's right by Bethel, where I see beautiful outdoor concerts in the summer, where
Yes.
it's like 78 degrees and perfect.
comfortable, but
a few months later, boy,
Look
that's
out.
long gone.
Well, they sit at 1,400 foot elevation,
Okay.
too, so that tends to
Sure,
do that,
yeah.
right? So then you've got Sussex, New Jersey was 8. And we had some records. We Bridgeport, there you go. Bridgeport got down to 15, breaking the old record of 17 in 1989. LaGuardia was 20. Their old record was 21. And JFK was 20. That tied the record from 1966. The record low for Manhattan was 10. But these records don't go as far back as the Manhattan records go.
Oh, gotcha.
Right,
Okay.
so Manhattan records go back to 1869. Those go back to like the 1930s.
Yeah.
40s. So here we go. Here's some of those lows, Steve. Like we were saying, 6 Poughkeepsie, and same for Scranton, 8 Sussex, 20 in Midtown. There's only 14 at White Plains and 17 even out in the Hamptons. So pretty cold start to the day. And, you know, we haven't really gained a lot of heat. I mean, we haven't gotten above freezing across almost the entire area this afternoon. Again, right now we're still holding at 31 in the city. That's actually up a degree in the last hour. It's in the 20s north of town. Belmar back up to 33, so they are actually the only place above freezing. It's a very light northeast wind, averaging about 5 miles an hour or so. We have clouds that have moved in, and the interesting thing tonight is we have a little system way off to the south, but the moisture's kind of creeping north. We've been sort of talking about this the last 2 days, and you can't quite see anything yet on the satellite radar composite here, but you know, we might have some flurries or even a period of a little light snow or a little light freezing drizzle in places overnight.
I swear I saw a
borderline.
couple flakes
Yeah.
on the Upper West Side today.
Well, there are
You
always
know,
a
our
couple of
new-
flakes on the Upper
yeah.
West Side, but that's another
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
That's another
that's
story.
right. That's right. Yeah. That's a good one. I like
But
that.
you can see some moisture off to the south. And you can also see some snow out by Chicago. That's going to be the next cold front to reinforce the colder air against Sunday night into Monday. But tonight, you know, a little bit of light snow or a little freezing drizzles, that can make the roads a little slippery if they're not treated properly overnight. That threat is probably going to go until about mid-Saturday morning, and then a little break in the cloud cover, I think, by tomorrow afternoon. Emphasis on little. But we won't be as cold tonight or tomorrow. Now, see how the little blues pop up there? That's that little light snow shower
Oh, okay,
activity.
yeah, by
Basically
Hartford,
running.
yeah.
It's going to run about mid to late Saturday morning. And then the clouds are going to dissipate a bit. We'll start Sunday with some sunshine, and then the clouds come in. But notice all that moisture is going to kind of lift to the north Sunday night. But that is the leading edge of another blast of cold air that is going to arrive early next week. So you'll see that on Monday.
So
and
we're
Tuesday.
in this pattern for a little bit.
For a little bit,
And it
yeah.
is interesting looking at the lows and the record lows. I guess I always imagine this time of year to be colder than it actually is, right? Like
Yes.
this time in December isn't as bitter cold
The
as it
average-
will be a month from now.
Yeah, because the average high should be 47 and the average low should be about 33.
Right.
So we are way below that. I mean, tonight we're going to, temperature's actually going to kind of hold steady tonight. And tomorrow we do get into the low 40s later in the day, you know, maybe by early to mid-afternoon. When a little sun may start to break through the clouds. But that's still below average. Again, we should be up around 47. But this pattern's going to stay rather chilly for the foreseeable future. I don't think we'll be getting back to 47 anytime soon. We might reach the mid-40s Wednesday, as you'll see here in the 7-day. Sunday we go back to 40. Windy, look at Monday, only 32. Tuesday morning back to 20. Then 36 Tuesday afternoon. A little rain by Wednesday afternoon, maybe for a portion of Thursday. And then by Friday again, it's turning cold again into the upper 30s.
You know what? Before the holidays, actually, I'm good with this. Puts you in the mood.
Okay.
After January, February, it gets tiresome. But right now, it's like, oh, this is so fun.
Well,
and
that's
new,
right,
and,
exactly.
you
But
know?
you're right. After a while, it's
Yeah.
like. But I think, you know, when we talked about in our Weather Extremes program, which hopefully you saw, and I know you did, you know, this pattern is kind of what we expected, that, you know, winter was going to start out harsh, and that December was going to start out like this. We might get a break after about the first week of January, and then it comes back in again about the middle of February. So it'll sort of modify itself a little bit.
If it comes back mid-February, that's still less winter realistically.
Correct.
Because you missed those 6 weeks of January to mid-February.
And we were getting a lot more daylight back by then too, right?
Sure.
That's the other thing now.
Yeah.
Is the sunset's at like 4:28 or 4:29.
Pretty close to the shortest days of the
well,
year.
we're at the earliest sunset now.
Yep.
We're losing time on the morning.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just
Mercifully, that's happening before I'm up for the most part, unless things are getting real kooky at my house. All right, Nick, we appreciate it. Good stuff. All right,
You
enjoy
got
the
it.
weekend. We'll be right back with more Newsroom Live in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live, taking a beautiful look at the Statue of Liberty this Friday night. Morgan McKay, of course, every week's host, Politics Unusual. Tonight she got into the issue of free bus service in the city. Here's a little bit of her interview that aired earlier tonight.
So joining us now are two of the city's best transit reporters, Clayton Guza, who is an editor at WNYC Gothamist and a co-writer of On the Way, which is a weekly transportation-focused newsletter, and Dave Colon, a top transit reporter at Streets Blog. Thank you guys so much for being here. So two of the best minds on transit here. So we're going to start first with, can buses be free? Now, Mamdani's team says it's going to cost about $700 million. The MTA is like, no way, that's going to cost probably upwards of $1 billion in a few years. What say you guys?
The big problem is filling this budget hole. The MTA doesn't really like giving away money. They're constantly crying poor. They're constantly saying they need to pay for things. And the big thing about this is if Zohran Mamdani and his new team and the incoming administration and the new city council finds a way to fill that budget gap, which is going to be at least $700 million by most estimates, then the MTA is still going to need to find a way to pay their bus drivers, pay their mechanics, figure out how to put in and fill this service. There are other routes that he could take without completely making buses free. The city has an existing program called Fair Fares that gives low-income residents half-priced fares. They could expand that. That's a mechanism they could do it. But getting the buses to be completely free will not only require a big approval and a budget item from the city council, but it'll require the MTA board saying we're going to give up the fares, and that's something that they've indicated they're not going to do.
And Mamdani's team has said it's a drop in the bucket when it comes to the city's overall budget. However, if there are not ways to raise revenue, like Mamdani's proposal to raise taxes on millionaires and corporations, could the city and state feasibly have $700 million, even just for taking the low amount, annually every year in their budget for something like this?
Well, it depends on who you talk to in Albany, I guess. State Senator Michael Gianaris was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and he said, listen, we can find $1 billion in a $250 billion budget. And you would think maybe there's a few people in Albany who share that idea. There may be more people in Albany who do not love the idea of just taking $1 billion and saying, we'll just replace fare revenue that the MTA has with this. We actually just ran into Senator Guinardis in the green room, and we asked him about it, and he said, if the city wants to find $700 million, sure, but we have filled MTA budget holes for the past 2 years. We are not necessarily super interested in having the state fund that immediately. So whether or not that money comes from Albany specifically, obviously the thing that Zoran was running on was not so much Albany will give us the money, it was Albany will give us the ability to tax millionaires, and we will take that money and we will put that towards free buses.
There's another curveball here that a lot of people might say, why not both? Why not let us keep the fares and give the MTA another $700 million? Then they a year. Then they can boost service. Then they can do a lot for bus riders without necessarily making buses free.
And so there's another component as well. I hear from a lot of people when they hear free buses. It's, what about the homeless people? Will you have homeless encampments on the buses? Would there have to be something specifically in a provision if you provide free buses that says you can't ride the bus forever as, you know, make this your home sort of a thing?
I mean, there are already kind of rules against that. And we saw buses go free during for 6 months during the COVID pandemic in 2020, right? It was it was this big thing to keep, you know, let people only go through the back door, not pay the fares, so that to keep drivers safe from the virus and transit workers safe from the virus. And you didn't necessarily see buses turn into a homeless encampment. Obviously, ridership was much lower. So you didn't really see these patterns, but there are already rules against, you know, loitering or spending too much time on buses. You have to get off at the end of the line. So those provisions are kind of already in place. And I don't think you're going to see people turning to the bus any more than they do anywhere else as in the public sphere if they're seeking shelter.
Yeah, you haven't.
An interesting conversation, the idea of free bus service. How does it work? What are the particulars on that? Great conversation with Morgan McKay on Politics Unusual, as always. And we're going to get into some privacy issues coming up after this next break. We're talking to a security expert about, I don't know if you heard about these networks of flock cameras that gather info on people's cars. There's lots of questions about what happens when you put all that info together. Are we losing our privacy? Do people really even know what's going on with this technology? We're going to delve into that in just 2 minutes when Newsroom Live continues. All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live here at our Fox 5 headquarters, the Upper East Side of Manhattan, taking a look at One World Trade Center. A beautiful shot. You can see it's a crisp night out, temperatures in the lower 30s. looking at the city, Lower Manhattan, from uptown. And, you know, as the issue of surveillance cameras creep into more and more of our streets and neighborhoods, a growing controversy is raising questions about privacy, transparency, who's watching, what happens to all the data. These are massive, weighty issues that maybe we're not paying enough attention to. For more on this issue, we're going to talk to Charlie Degliomini. He is from Recourse Systems. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us on this Friday night. I appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so I was excited when our producer mentioned they were able to get you because these flock cameras, that's what we're talking about, flock cameras, F-L-O-C-K. This is something I've been seeing a lot more of lately. So what's the deal? This is a network of cameras that, like local police departments and stuff, set up. They track your car, the license plate readers, and then they can sort of figure out, you know, if you were at the scene of a crime or something. But the reality is, these are getting set up more and more places to the point where basically it's impossible not to be captured by these cameras, regardless if you're up to anything nefarious or not. And there's a lot of questions about, well, what happens to all this data? Is it secure, et cetera, et cetera? Is that the gist of the conversation we're having around these cameras these days?
Very accurate, probably well over 100,000 across 49 states, coast to coast, right? And in Hawaii and Alaska too. It's pervasive, right? And really the mission is for public safety, for police departments, is to find the wanted vehicle, right? The amber alert, the silver alert vehicle. But there's also controversy, as you pointed out correctly. And the controversy is around how the data is kept and how it's used.
Yeah, and that's been the problem, you know, since social media existed, there's sort of this faith, I think we all put, that someone was minding the gate, that no one was stealing the passwords, your emails would never get leaked, and that turned out to be unfounded confidence in these companies. So I think at this point, people are learning to be more cynical about guarding the info. You know, walk us through some of the scenarios that everyone should be mindful of just when they gather all of this information, if it were ever to get out, how it could be used against you.
It's controversial, and there are people, there have been citizens who have been completely innocent, who have been flagged in areas of interest by police departments, and they've been confronted and challenged about why they were there, and some people have been erroneously arrested. So it's a problem, and really what happens with that data, there's giant data lakes with billions of reads of our vehicles, right? And it's not just the license plate, which has personally identifying information. It has our address. It knows whose the car is registered, where we live. But it also has things like the make, model, and color. Well, my company, Recourse Systems, has done very recently is we had one of our customers, we're a roadway intelligence company. We had one of our customers come to us, not a police department, but a transportation agency, and said, hey, you guys use video analytics. Can you make sure that the data is invisible, that even if it got into nefarious hands, it could not be used? And we've done that, right? So we're able to take that data, make it invisible. Think of it as a table on Times Square, right? With billions of reads of cars and vehicles, and anybody can come up and pick up and look at that information. But with our technology, we're able to make that data invisible. It needs to be unencrypted, and it needs to be done in a legal and lawful manner to get unencrypted.
You know, and it's funny because it seems like with all of these technologies, there is always a way to do more to protect privacy. It just seems like the companies never choose to do it. So that's sort of the issue going forward, right? Forcing these companies to take the steps that your company could help them with.
We've hung out our shingle, and we're asking anybody who's interested in using this technology to come to us, and we'll be happy to talk to them about how to protect that data so it's not sitting there and it's not going to be accessible. Look, there's been cybersecurity attacks on these cameras that have been very recently exposed. There's been issues related to, look, the data can be released on the Freedom of Information Act. Some states have said, look, that's if somebody writes in and asks for those reads, we can give it to a citizen. But how do we know if that citizen has good intentions or bad intentions? If it's encrypted, then nobody understands where the personal identification goes and who it's tracked to.
Realistically, that is something, we got to let you go in a second, but
Sure.
For that to take place, it seems like, given the history with these companies, this would be something that would almost have to be mandated on them. They're not going to do anything more than what they have to at the end of the day, has been the experience, correct?
It is the experience, and regulatory intervention is needed, and we encourage it. But I will tell you more. You see cities right now that are shutting down their cameras because they don't want to take this privacy risk. And there's an upwell of community opposition. It's happening in small cities and big cities. And these cameras are going dark. We're saying, look, two things can be true at the same time, right? We need to protect public safety, but we also need to protect privacy.
Yeah, well put. We'll leave it there. All right, Charlie Degliomini from Recourse Systems. That was an interesting conversation, tackling some weighty issues this Friday night on Newsroom Live. Charlie, we appreciate it. Thanks for being with us.
Have a good evening.
All right, you too. We'll be right back. More Newsroom Live in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back. Newsroom Live this Friday night. We saw some big World Cup news today. We saw the draw, what teams will be in what division, how they will face on their way to hopefully the World Cup finale at MetLife Stadium. We want to see USA in that. USA actually got a pretty nice draw, so certainly nothing that looks prohibitively bad for their potential of making it to the finale. Certainly nothing's granted or given. Here was the moment where President Trump drew our name, figuring out where we're going to be in that group of 48. So a good big day for soccer fans. Looking forward to the summer. You can see everybody bundled up in Times Square. And of course, this is going to be a massive moneymaker for all sorts of people, including in the collectible space. Our Kendall Green did a story about the stickers from the Italian memorabilia company Panini, how these are going to be a huge thing you're going to see everywhere. And it's basically, at this point, a hunt for these super rare stickers that could be worth a ton of money.
Just days ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup draw, Panini America, one of the leading sports collectibles companies, unveiled the newest edition of its Panini FIFA World Cup sticker collection album at MetLife. That's where we caught up with one of the U.S. men's national team's all-time leading scorer, Landon Donovan. He called the collector's items pieces of history of the sport, growing in popularity in the U.S.
Major League Soccer has now become much more prominent than it was in the past, but for our sport, really, every 4 years was the opportunity to showcase ourselves and make an impact, and it's no different than this coming summer.
It'll be the first time Panini's dedicated their collectibles cover to host nations, the USA, Mexico, and Canada.
The magazine itself is a historical icon for soccer followers and fans of the game.
Former World Cup player for Team Canada, Julian de Guzman, shares collectibles were a big part of growing his love for the game.
I used to have a magazine where you had all the stickers that would come in, and you have to get the stickers for each country, for each team, and it was a way of finding out, you know, who your hero was. It's a way of trading stickers or cards.
We used to do a big hockey business, and now soccer is like taking over.
Fred Bauman, one of the co-owners of Alex's MVP Cards and Comics, says soccer's been drawing more and more fans to his shop.
So MLS, you know, they've got some good stuff going on. When Messi came, all of a sudden MLS packs exploded.
So between now and World Cup, how much would you say the interest is climbing in soccer itself and the collectibles items?
I think every day. You know, we have the holidays coming up. A lot of people have it on their list. I want this box, I want that box.
So if you're looking for a special gift for that soccer fan for the holiday season, Alex MVP Cards and Comics, not a bad place to stop. On the Upper East Side, Kendall Green, Fox 5 News.
Yeah, the stuff's big bucks. The stickers are reasonable, but I don't know if you saw over his shoulder, there's a box of cards for $425, and they can be much more expensive than that. Definitely the hobby has come a long way. Since I was 8 years old, buying packs for 30 cents. Those days are long gone. All right, we'll be right back with more Newsroom Live in just a minute. All right, a little cloudy and cool this Friday night here on the Upper East Side, looking in Lower Manhattan on Newsroom Live. Welcome back, everybody. A big day. We had a lot of soccer news today. People looking forward to the World Cup. The finale going to be held at MetLife, New Jersey, July 2026. Going to be a big event. The whole world's going to be watching.
Yeah, including my kids. I'm really looking forward to it.
Are they looking, yeah, kids. That's what we were talking about.
Fan.
Kids these days are massive fans of the sport in a way that we played soccer when I was growing up, but I didn't follow it. I didn't know a thing about it. But now it's a lot different, big time.
It's a whole thing. I mean, that's because of the conditioning. And the U.S. is training everybody, like, this is going to be our sport. We're going to be dominating soccer. And you see it with all the young kids. They're all about, they know the names of everyone.
They're into Messi and all that, big time, you know?
It's big stuff. And I will be at one of these games, one of them that allows 6-year-olds.
Nice. All right. Start saving up now. Those tickets ain't cheap. All right, Duarte, I'll let you take it. We appreciate it. And everybody, thanks for being with me for the past hour on Newsroom Live. I will turn it over now. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, Steve. And we got a show for you today. We're going to be talking about the World Cup. You know, everybody's excited about it. There was a big party in Midtown Manhattan today. So we know that the World Cup is taking shape, but there's so many big questions tonight. And we have Jen Williams, who's going to be joining us right now to talk with us about some of the major unanswered mysteries. Oh, you coming over here? Come on over here.
Just get mic'd up. I'm sorry, everyone's just seeing me.
Yeah, this is how it works with Newsroom Live. You're getting a sneak peek of how things work. This is how the sausage is made. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about not just the World Cup, we're also going to be talking about insurance premiums. I know this is sort of a weird time to talk about this, but you're going to be making your health care selections. And so now you have to be informed about what prices are going to be rising, where you can get discounts, all of that coming up later in the show. But for right now, we are focused on the World Cup, which is the big news.
Very exciting stuff. Again, just a big day. The U.S. drew a very favorable draw, Group D. They are the top seed in Group D, and definitely not a group, quote unquote, group of death. But they are going to be playing Paraguay in their first match of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. That's going to be Friday, June 12th at SoFi Stadium, the home of the Los Angeles Chargers. And that's a team that they beat last month 2-1 in a friendly. So also in the group is Australia. They also beat them recently in a friendly 2-1. And then rounding it out, it's actually going to be the winner of playoff C, which is going to be Kosovo, Romania, Slovakia, or Turkey. So a very, I wouldn't just say a favorable group, a winnable group for the U.S. men's national team.
Because you talk about a favorable group, but what would have been one of these unbeatable groups? They talk about the group of death, and how does that play into the larger game?
Well, you know what? I'm going to just have, Jonah, would you mind just wheeling over the dry erase board? So if Pot 1 was actually all the top seeds from FIFA. And so all the host countries automatically qualified, and that was Mexico, Canada, USA, but also England, number 4 ranked by FIFA. They also drew Croatia. They are ranked 10th. Croatia was the runner-up in 2018, and in 2022 in Qatar, they knocked out England out of the semis to finish 3rd in the tournament. And so if we just take this right here, as you can see, it kind of filled out where you have all the top seeds getting first place, and then it kind of filled out. And so this year's quote-unquote unofficial group of death is Group L right here: England, Croatia, Panama, and Ghana. Ooh. Because Croatia here's the thing, if USA, Mexico, and Canada hadn't gotten that automatic qualifying, Croatia would have been a top seed. So, and then they wouldn't have been in Group L with England. So England, look, they're out for revenge, right? They got knocked out by Croatia in 2022. So, and that's actually going to be their first match. So that's one to keep an eye on as well.
That's going to be a biggie. And it's, it's unfortunate that there's so much power in that one group. I mean, that's what's so
here's
tough.
The thing. These two can still merge because for a win, you get 3 points. For a draw, you get 1 point. For a loss, you get 0 points. The Stars and Stripes in 2022, they drew with both Wales and England, and then they beat Iran, and they had 5 points and able to emerge. So we can still see these two teams emerge out of Group L.
Well, I'm going to be rooting for the USA. Now, let's talk about the USA. We're hosting this year. There's a lot of pressure for us. I mean, so in some ways, it's a good thing that we're not in that group of death. So we're going to be hopefully in the game for quite a while. But what are the pressures that a country takes when you're in the tournament and you're hosting?
Well, you know what's so unique about this cup is that it is spread across North America. So there are 3 host countries. You have, Canada, Mexico, and of course the United States. So you can talk about home field advantage, and you can also talk about the pressure of having your fans. And the biggest American fan base is the American Outlaws. And if anyone's been to a U.S. men's national team game, they are loud and rowdy. I mean, again, they bring in steel drums into the arena. But, I just think that the last time a host country won was France in 1998, so obviously there is a lot of pressure on these host countries. But again, I think what takes the pressure off a little bit, and then we see the 2022 Messi, who, by the way, you can catch it on our air starting tomorrow at 2:30. Messi and Miami, Miami will be taking on the Vancouver Whitecaps in MLS Cup final, and that would be his first MLS Cup trophy, but obviously nothing compares to a World Cup trophy and an incredible ending between Argentina and France in 2022. Goodness. So while there's Christian Pulisic, one of the stars of Team USA, But again, I think the pressure's off just a little bit because it is across North America, and I think that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Now, what about particular players? Do we have an idea of who is the so-called most dangerous?
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of bizarre that they're calling them dangerous, but
Yes.
who might bring it?
So Norway hasn't been in the World Cup since 1998. And they boast of this player named Erling Haaland. He's 6'5". He scored 16 goals through qualifiers. Norway was a perfect 8-0-0, like through qualifiers. They are seen as the dark horse. Also Colombia, Japan. I'm like just looking at all of my notes, a lot of notes in terms of dark horses. But again, you can once you've circled a dark horse, are they really a dark horse anymore? When, everyone's got their eyes on them. But, and then you have your usual, there he is right there. I mean, he looks out of a villain, out of like a Rocky.
Oh my God,
one
you
of the
went
Rocky
there,
movies. But yeah, so, and let's see, where is Norway? What group are they
And we're talking
in?
about the guy with the ponytail, just in case anybody doesn't know.
6'5", he scored the striker scored 16 goals during qualifiers. So definitely keep an eye on them. The Netherlands, another team that's always knocking. Again, any of these groups, Mexico, Canada, Brazil, USA, Germany, Netherlands, any of the top seeds, you always have to keep an eye out for them. They're always dangerous. Hey, look, Ronaldo and Messi both making a record 6 appearance in the World Cup. The difference between the two, Messi has a World Cup title. Cristiano Ronaldo does not. And so I know after the last World Cup, when I went and asked people who the greatest soccer player is, the amount of people, and look, in the United States, we talk about championship rings, we talk MJ, we talk LeBron, and guess what? When you, at the nuts and bolts of it, we talk rings. And I think for his legacy, it would be huge if he was able to lead Portugal to a World Cup title.
That's my son's favorite player. He's always talking about it. It's like, what? You're 6. How do you know this guy?
Yeah, just say, hey, well, is he going to get that World Cup title? Yeah. I think he's won the Ballon d'Or 6 or 7 times, something insane like that. But, and again, these guys, he's 40 years old and he's still running circles around people. So, but again, this could be both of their last appearances. So, it's just incredible to be, during a time when you can see just the best of the best competing on the world stage.
So what are the must-watch matchups? Because obviously this is a long tournament. There are a lot of games. So what's the most important ones?
I'm going to be keeping an eye on USA and Paraguay, that first match. Again, Portugal and Colombia. Colombia seen as another dark horse. They're a perennially favorite team, but they're quote unquote considered a dark horse this time around. Uzbekistan, there's what I like too is we love Cinderella stories, right? There are 4 nations making their debut. Uzbekistan is one of them. Curacao, Cape Verde, Jordan. They are making their first ever World Cup appearance, and it's funny. There's 48 teams this year, up from 32, and there's some people saying, oh, it's a little watered down. Well, you know what? Whatever. There's now going to be almost twice the action with 104 games versus 64 that we've seen before. And it allows, I think one of the things we love about sports is an underdog or a Cinderella story. And so this format allows teams to, make a name for themselves. Yes, emerge what if Tunisia knocks out Japan and the Netherlands and is able to emerge? And look, we don't even know. There's 22 teams vying for these last playoff spots, and that will be determined in March. What if we might not even know the Cinderella yet? So
it's very, very exciting. Jen, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Breaking it down and joining us here.
For letting me yap about sports. I
know this is we love this over here. So I am riveted. I can't wait to see who actually takes home the trophy.
Once the tournament starts, it's really fun. And you know what's so cool about being in New York City? Whether or not you can go to a game, we live in a city where when Croatia made that deep run back in 2022, there was actual bars in the city and out in Queens that are just catered to Croatians. Yeah. And again, where else can you find that?
That's true.
You know what I mean? Where it's such a melting pot here, so it's very exciting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Christmas trees. Apparently, this year, you actually want to buy a real one, not those fake ones. We're going to tell you why coming up in 2 minutes. And you're looking at this beautiful shot of Manhattan. Look at that, it's actually crowded, people are out there. And in the corner of your screen, all the way down to the lower right-hand side, you see a couple of Christmas trees. Well, you saw them, and now you have that majestic view of the city as we approach one of the biggest holidays of the year. And our own Richard Giancovis, Mr. Christmas himself, as we like to call him here in the newsroom, has spent all day looking at Christmas trees and all things Christmas. And he's going to join us right now, shortly, to talk with us about the price of Christmas trees, the real ones versus the artificial ones. And because of the political dynamics in the world and economics, it would appear that this is the year where you actually want to buy a real Christmas tree. Now, I got a fake one, but I bought it a couple of years ago, and it's been making a reappearance every single year for my family. But were I on the market for a Christmas tree, I would weigh the cost of these artificial trees, which can run into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars, versus a real tree. And obviously the problem with real trees is you got to go out to the farm, you got to get the car, you got to sometimes, if you want to have fun, saw it down and bring it back to your house. Or if you were in the city, you want to go to one of these guys on the streets, you might pay a pretty nice premium just to have that tree down the street. All these factors are at play, and our own Richard Giancovis has been out, and I think he's going to chat with us, join us right now to discuss a little bit more about this. He's actually getting ready. Apparently he's deep in the bushes of these trees. He was examining some elements, which is kind of hilarious, but this is the type of guy that Mr. Giancovis is. And one of the factors that he's also considering is some of the events around Christmas around the tri-state area. He spent some time today also at a Christmas experience where he was looking at some of the unique things to do with our children. You see these lights? I actually tried to use these lights one year, and I lost one bulb, and it just, it was a little bit of a nightmare. These Christmas tree farms, normally, you know, they make all of their money this time of year, and they rely on people who want that fresh smell and that wonderful experience of new Christmas trees, but sometimes people have to switch. And I think what we may do is get to Richard a little bit later. I think he is still deep in that forest. And right now, we may go and talk a little bit more about health insurance because it's a huge issue right now. This is the time of year where you have to decide which insurance you want for the following year. You have to sign up your dependents, but there's a lot at play right now where the costs may be rising. In fact, I was doing a lot of research in preparation. You may see healthcare costs go up next year, especially if Congress doesn't extend those tax credits. Now, you're hearing a lot about rising premiums and who gets hit the hardest. Well, we have a guest here, Nathan Gustorf, and he's here to help us make sense of it. He's the executive director of Fiscal Policy Institute right here in New York. So, Nathan, thank you for joining us. Can you talk to us about what's driving the sharp increase in healthcare premiums?
Hey, happy to be here. This year we're seeing healthcare premiums rise pretty sharply, but unfortunately that's not just something that we're seeing this year. It's really become the norm. And it speaks to what is the deep trend now in American health policy, which is that there are a few interests and actors that really drive up the prices. Chief among them, frankly, hospitals, drug manufacturers, and also companies like medical device manufacturers. But they have been pushing up healthcare prices for years, and health insurance companies, which in principle are supposed to keep down those costs, have really failed to do that job. And so instead what you see are rising premiums every year.
So how much more could families pay if these tax credits expire? What are we talking about?
So we have to do a little bit of distinguishing of the different kind of components of the health insurance system here. The health insurance companies themselves will drive up the costs of really plans across the board. Then separately, we have to go back to the whole landscape of Obamacare, because before Obamacare was passed, tens of millions of Americans simply didn't have health insurance because they couldn't afford it. So we created a national system of a basically subsidized marketplace where the government provides, through the mechanism of tax credits, cheaper health insurance that low and middle income Americans can actually afford. What we are now about to see, if Congress doesn't do a deal to extend some of those tax credits to keep health insurance affordable, is that for a sort of low middle income family, say earning around $75,000 a year, what they pay annually in subsidized health insurance costs could double from about $5,000 to $10,000.
Wait a minute. That's huge. From $5,000 to $10,000 divided across 12 months. That's a huge chunk of money for a family earning about $75,000 to stomach. Can you just put that into perspective? And forgive me for interrupting you, but when you said that number, that's huge.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, again, this is one of the weird things about health policy, specifically in the U.S., where we do not have a national system that holds down these costs. It's always been understood to be an issue, I mean, going back to the 80s and 90s, but the prices have gotten so high that insurance went from being something that was, in principle, rising too quickly to something that people truly now cannot afford. And so if those subsidies go away, many middle-income families quite literally won't be able to afford health insurance.
Now, are we talking about families who get subsidies but also who have employer-sponsored plans? Is there a distinction between the two?
There is a distinction. So many people, you basically have health insurance provided through your business, and that is a different kind of subsidy. There is a tax benefit for it, but that's not the subsidy that we're talking about. For many Americans who don't get insurance through their employer, they buy it on the Obamacare market. And in order for that market to be affordable, the government directly subsidizes their purchase. So the tax credits that everybody's talking about that are up for debate in Congress are government federal tax credits that defray the cost of those individual marketplace plans that you could just go online and buy yourself without having to get through your business.
Your organization looks at this very, very, very closely. Are you predicting that people will just go without insurance, go in debt to cover it? What direction are we going to be going in?
Yeah, that's a great question because it speaks to the way in which there are a number of different directions and they're all kind of bad, but here's what will happen. Nobody really knows the proportions in which it'll happen, but there are some people, especially younger healthy people, who just won't buy insurance because you can't afford it anyway. You think you're going to be okay, maybe you're wrong, but that's the decision a lot of people make. That's bad for the market overall because you need people who are healthy paying in order for the whole system to sustain itself financially. Then you'll have people who have to have health insurance because they have some real problem. They're diabetic or they have a chronic illness otherwise. Maybe they have a serious chronic illness like cancer. And they will have to have health insurance. So no matter how expensive it is, they're going to keep paying it even if it really drives them into poverty. And then you'll have people who get sick, who never bought the health insurance, who have to go into hospitals, and those hospitals aren't getting paid by any insurer for the care, and it ends up coming back to the taxpayer. So this really turns into a sort of short-sighted plan for the rest of us, where the public bears the cost of this uninsured population that still ends up needing care.
You mentioned those young invincibles, which are so critical to the insurance system, because as you said, it relies on people who, in some situations, don't statistically have a risk of getting sick, but they have to pay into the system just in case they do to prevent this financial ruin. And then you have those who have these chronic illnesses that need the subsidized care that comes with insurance, because otherwise, who can afford doctor's visits at $5, $6, maybe sometimes $1,000 a pop? It's literally too much. Now, I'm in New York City right now. A lot of people are watching us in New York City. Is there any particular effect that New Yorkers might face, or people in dense urban areas like New York?
Well, there is a very New York specific dimension to this, so I'm glad you asked. Our exchange, the people who buy insurance on that exchange, it's actually pretty small because the state has these other mechanisms to get people insured that are a little bit unusual but have been engineered by health policy experts over the years in New York. However, those other mechanisms are currently getting defunded under the Republican tax cut bill that was just passed this summer. And so our exchange population is going to be 600,000 people, which is 4 times the current size. So there's actually going to soon be a very new, very large population of New Yorkers who all have to go confront that dilemma of individually buying insurance that's too expensive or going without health insurance altogether.
Which after COVID we see, the public health effects of not having insurance, early prevention, and the economic ripple effects. What about rural areas? Are there any particular specific effects for people who may not be living in an urban center like New York City?
So one of the biggest differences between the rural areas and the urban areas in a place like New York in particular is that in New York City, you have a lot of basically very wealthy hospital systems. And so even if you have some hospitals that face financial distress, you also have some hospitals that really are going to be able to afford these impacts, and they may say otherwise, but they're actually going to be okay and they will stay open, they will continue to treat people. By contrast, in rural communities, there are hospitals that really are teetering on the edge of financial collapse. And so when this money comes out of the healthcare system, they may close. I mean, we could lose around 100,000 healthcare jobs statewide from the federal funding cuts all in that got passed this last summer. We could see tens of hospitals close. It's quite a serious situation in the rural areas.
In the rural areas, hospitals may close. In the urban areas where things are so expensive, people may choose to simply go without health insurance, which is fairly, that's a horrible consequence.
It's really bad. I should also add that we may also see urban hospital closures. Obviously there's a very complex social and racial geography to the city. So you may see parts of the city also really lose access to healthcare. But again, it's not going to be in the same way that it happens in those rural areas where there might only be one hospital, within a 200-mile range.
You've painted a pretty bleak picture of what could happen. What can families do right now, given this information? We're in December. We're at this time period where you're making your insurance selections. What can you do?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry to say there's not really a good alternative. Sadly, the best answer tonight might be political. Call your congressional representative. I mean, there's truly no reason why we shouldn't see every single New York congressional representative supporting a deal to extend those tax credits. You know, we all know the politics of it, but in terms of the interests of New Yorkers, they're very aligned, and people should be very clear-eyed that there is no good case for letting them expire as part of some political deal.
Thank you so much for joining us and explaining this crucial issue right now. We're going to take a look.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, Richard Giancovis will finally join us from that Christmas tree world. And you're looking at a live picture of New York City. Welcome back to Newsroom Live. I'm Duarte Geraldino. It's about 8:30 in New York, and we are talking all things Christmas. Christmas trees and the economic and political ramifications on those trees in your holiday because of what may be happening in Washington. Richard Giancovis is going to join us right now, and he is in Westchester County. Richard, welcome to Newsroom Live.
Our home away from home.
I know.
Yours too.
Absolutely. So I see you. I see all these Christmas trees. I've been telling everybody that we're going to go to you in this Christmas tree farm. But where exactly
And look,
are
I'm
you?
sitting. Look, Duarte, I'm sitting in a sled.
Oh my! Are you moonlighting? Are you one of the? Are you the secret Santa or the elf on the shelf? No.
I am. I'm just an elf.
So talk to me about what's happening with real Christmas trees versus the fake Christmas trees, which I sort of prefer because I just don't like watering them and all the complications.
Oh, so you like the fake ones?
Yeah, fake, pre-lit, all the way, perennially perfect.
Duarte wants it easy going.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, when you have kids, I get it. It's just another thing you have to do. I personally always grew up with real. And so my parents always took us when we were kids. And then it's funny, you take that tradition and you pass it on, because then I do it with mine. What I'm finding, though, this year, and what my story is tonight, is that real is actually the way to go, at least this year, even if you're a fan of artificial. According to this American tree. Wait a minute. Let me get the right thing, because you know what? I don't know. I got to say this right, Duarte.
Oh, I'm still
story. So hold on, because I want to get the American Christmas Tree Association. Who knew there was one? But there is. And they say that fake tree prices are up 10 to 15%. For 2025.
Wait a second. 10 to 15% more you're going to be paying if you walk into the store, just like I did, or you ordered online, in order to get an artificial tree. What's going on? I mean, they sell these artificial trees with the thinking that it's going to save you money along, the long run, or at least in that year. But what you're telling me is that just may not be the case.
I think what it is so a lot of these trees are manufactured in China. With the tariffs on China for this year, with the Trump administration, those trees are increased in prices. So it's a product basically. It's not a tree that's being grown here. And it's funny because at this tree, I don't want to call it a stand, and it's certainly not a farm, but it's a place where trees are delivered and put on, so you could pick one out. And there's a lot of them. There's a couple hundred trees here. They're this particular Danny's Christmas Trees and Wreaths. They're in Eastchester, and they get from a grower that grows them in New Hampshire. So they don't really import. 75% of them are from New Hampshire. I don't know where the other 25% is. And a lot of them, when you get them grown here, you're going to pay less. The thing with artificial is I think people believe that getting artificial, it'll pay for itself after a while because you can keep putting it up year after year. I'm sure that's what you're thinking when you buy the artificial tree. The real tree, you can go for like $150, $200 a year on a real tree. But that might be if you're thinking of it this year, go for the real one this year and maybe save on that artificial one till the coming years when maybe these tariffs go away.
What I've been noticing though, Richard, is that when you buy an artificial tree, you're sort of locked into the style of that particular year. And then as the years change, you're looking at your tree. It's like, wait a minute, is my tree wearing bell bottoms? I mean, what's going on over here?
Yeah, see, you need to change it up. So you got to come out and get that real Fraser fir or the Douglas fir. I don't know which one smells the most. I forgot to ask him. See, don't you miss that pine smell in your house, Duarte, when you don't have a real tree?
Well, there's a spray for that, right? But
all right.
It gives you that impression.
That's right. It pumps out at Grand Central. I did a story on that.
And
True.
I learned it from you. Now, you mentioned, by the way, you were hinting at how the supply chain makes a difference. Danny's gets a lot of his trees from New Hampshire, as you mentioned. But can we just hit that again in terms of the global supply chain and how many steps are in this chain that may increase the price of these trees, which in theory should be long lasting, but as I mentioned, the styles change, and then you may be thinking, the artificial tree I bought last year doesn't quite work this year, so I'm going to have to get another one. Talk to me about that supply chain.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to where you're getting them from, so like he was telling me, a lot of these growers, or sellers, I should say, the wholesalers, will buy their trees from growers across the border in Canada. It's an easy transport. When you buy real trees from someone, that's why you see in the city those tree stands. A lot of people, like in the East Village, Upper West Side, Upper East Side, around the corner from us, they sell trees at a real premium. And yes, they're definitely making profit, but they're paying more from their wholesaler, who may be selling them from Canada, and that's where the trees are coming from. So, you have an additional tax on it there. So I think the key is, if you want to say, maybe just don't get a tree, but if you want to get a tree, get a real one and try to find like a place like here, which is, kind of local, mom and pop kind of place, and get it homegrown from U.S. soil. So it helps U.S. agriculture, helps the economy, helps keep the cost down.
Now, I know that you're getting a real tree, or you may already have it if I know you. You already have it.
I don't have it yet, but I'm looking.
Oh, my gosh. Like you've just shaken the world. The elves are talking to each other right now, so I don't know what we're going to do with you. But you are Mr. Christmas here, and earlier today, you were actually at another location. Where were you at earlier today where you were exploring?
Oh, yes. Earlier. Do you have that queued up, by the way? Did you find it?
I think we
do.
You
Okay.
tell us, and we're going to show it.
Okay, so I'll tell you. So we were at this, which you got to take your kids. It's the Holiday Wish Express. So what we're getting to do, I have the best assignments, I have to say, over the last month, because it started with Macy's Santaland. And if this even tops that, because we got to take a virtual train ride to the North Pole, where we met Mrs. Claus, and we met Phineas the Elf. Is that his name? I forgot his name. And I have to tell you, talk about immersive experience with real people who transport you and create that magic. And I've said this, Forte, in different live shots this past couple weeks, is there are few things now that really take us away from screens, that make us connect and bring back that joy and spirit that you and I grew up with. This is one of those things that does that.
Oh, so exciting. Let's see it now.
Holiday wish.
Teresa, Steve, I'm no longer in Stanford. I'm in the North Pole, and I'm going to take you to see all things North Pole, right, conductor?
Yes, you are. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Glacier Island.
Glacier Island? Wow, what's in Glacier? Whoa, look at Glacier Island. And wait, who's that? Mrs. Claus, the one and only Mrs. Claus.
Welcome, dear. Welcome. How are you? My, how you've grown up, Richard.
Oh, I did?
Well done,
I'm
dear.
so happy. Nice to see you.
Lovely to see you. May I give you a quick tour?
Please take us around,
Right
Mrs.
this
Claus.
way.
Come with us, guys. You're going to want to see this.
First, you'll encounter Glacier Island. Make sure you
Ooh.
say hello to my polar bear friends and my penguin friends. It's a lovely opportunity for a photo.
Oh, yes, I love the penguins.
This way.
This way, we have more to see. We have more to see. Come with us.
Welcome to one of the barnyards of Santa. Here we are. The elves are at work, you can see. Busy time of year, you know.
Only a few more weeks till
Only
Christmas.
a few more
Less
weeks.
than 3.
My goodness, well, we better hurry.
They're working hard. Oh, it smells like pine in here.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
I
With
love
the
it.
forest, yes. Some of our reindeer are taking a bit of a nap, you know. We rotate.
Yes,
And
I see them.
Here's the raccoons.
Oh, the raccoons are great. Look at them.
Trash pandas, we love them so. Right this way, dear.
They keep going, right?
They do, yes. Now, welcome to my little gingerbread hut.
From Home Alone.
Yes,
Look at that.
indeed, the
Recognize them.
Ooh, the original.
original.
Yes, yes. Now, here's where you'll find me most days when I'm not busy working or helping Santa.
Okay.
Yes, dear. And when you visit, you'll get a recipe of my famous homemade gingerbread cookies.
You have those in the oven for me, right,
Yes,
Mrs.
I
Claus?
do,
Okay,
dear.
good. I'm a little hungry.
Absolutely.
All right.
Welcome to Main Street.
Oh, this is
There we
wow,
are.
this is Main Street. Look at this.
A porch for photos.
Okay.
Now, this is very important to Santa. His favorite toys over the last 150 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even a Spice Girl doll.
That's true. And Theodore, here he is, getting everything ready. Santa's finery. Yes,
Yes.
there we are, dear. And all the nutcrackers you could ever imagine.
Oh.
Now, behind
The
this
Nutcracker.
door
What's here?
is
Toy Maker's Lab?
Mm-hmm. Knock 3 times, dear.
Okay.
Well, hello, Mrs. See, always a pleasure. And Richard, I heard you were coming. Phineas Flywheel, Master Toy Maker, come into the lab.
Okay, I'm coming. Bye, Mrs. Claus. Okay.
My friend, this is the Toyminator 3000 2.0. We are simultaneously making 100 million toys, serving children's wishes all Christmas long. Now, there's something very special I want to show you behind this door. But first, you have to talk to the naughty and nice indicator and say it, Merry Christmas.
I'll try it. Merry Christmas.
You may want to try again. Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Merry Christmas. That didn't happen.
Good job. Nicely done. Very good.
Okay, now it worked.
Self-doubt. A little self-doubt. But
maybe I did that time.
Is Santa's Festival of Lights.
Wow. And this is it, everybody. Look at this. We have to throw it back because we ran out of time, Phineas. But you can see all of this at the holidaywish.com. Get your tickets every weekend now through the end of the month up until Christmas here in Stanford or the North Pole. Your choice. Guys, back to you.
But I'm sure he can join you on Newsroom Live later, and you can give him a long tour, too.
Yeah, we would like that. We'll do the extended version.
The
Richard,
extended
amazing. God, I just associate Stanford with being stuck in traffic on 95. That's a whole new world there.
I got to head over to Stanford. Did you see that? And that was all inside. It's freezing outside, so sometimes you don't want to be outside. But here at Stanford, you can walk through. Now, Richard, he went back behind the trees, gathering his elements for tonight's show at 10 o'clock. And in just 2 minutes, we're going to welcome Sharon Crowley here. And she's going to be talking about the latest developments in the Luigi Mangione trial. All that coming up next. Welcome back to Newsroom Live. You're looking at live images of New York City. Oh, it's chilly, but there's so many people out enjoying life in the city. Today, we're going to be talking about the Luigi Mangione case. I don't know why I call him
Luigi Mangione, that's his name, yes.
Yeah, so there was supposed to be an evidence hearing today, but apparently Luigi got sick, and so it just didn't happen. Now, he obviously is the man of interest in the CEO murder case, and Sharon Crowley has been following this case very closely. Sharon.
I have, yes. And you know, Duarte, what's so interesting about Luigi Mangione on murder for the execution-style murder this time last year, December 4th, as a matter of fact, is the one-year anniversary of Brian Thompson's execution. He's the United Healthcare CEO, and Mangione was arrested just a few days later in Altoona, Pennsylvania at a McDonald's after customers and the staff called in a tip. He was wearing a mask, but they recognized his bushy eyebrows, which you can also see in that picture. He's cleaned up quite a bit for his court appearance this week, and his lawyers were able to get the judge to agree, and of course the prosecution to agree, that he did not have to wear a prison jumpsuit during his trial. Now, right now, the trial hasn't started, but these are pre-trial motions. And Duarte, these are really important because what they're looking at are key pieces of evidence. The defense does not want the weapon, the silencer, or what some have described as a manifesto where he details how he wanted to murder not just Brian Thompson, but any healthcare CEO. And also there's apparently writings, according to the prosecution, in this journal that they found in the backpack that he had with him at the McDonald's in Altoona, that detail like his grievances against the healthcare industry. There's just a ton of attention on this case.
These are really important pieces of evidence. The gun, the notes. I mean, these are critical pieces. What would be the grounds for not allowing them?
Well, the grounds for not allowing them is that the defense lawyers are saying that he was not read his Miranda rights in time. Too much. They searched the knapsack before they read him his rights, and under the Constitution, they said it's a violation of the Constitution. So on those grounds, the gun and the manifesto and other key pieces of evidence that the prosecution is really counting on to win this case would be tossed out. But you know what, Duarte, I did talk with an attorney about this. I am not an attorney, as you know, but I do follow all things courtroom. But let's hear from Imran Ansari. He'll give us some legal insight into this case.
There's so much in that backpack from an evidence standpoint that is important to the prosecution. You have the firearm that they're saying is a match to the one that was used in the crime. You have the quote-unquote manifesto where Luigi Mangione is sort of putting down his musings about things that are relevant to the crime. And there's a lot of evidence in there that the prosecution just will want to have at trial to link Luigi Mangione to this murder, as they have alleged. But the defense right now, they're working hard to keep that out.
Yeah, and we may hear from a judge who's going to rule on whether or not the gun and the manifesto will be allowed at trial. We were supposed to, as you mentioned at the top, we're supposed to have trial today, but Luigi Mangione, there he is in the McDonald's in Altoona. He was picked up about 5 days after the murder happened on December 4th. And you can see he has a mask on in the lower picture there, and that's when customers actually called, and then he's eating something there. And we had the 911 call, and there is the silencer and the murder weapon that the prosecutor, this is a video of the incident. That is the gun that prosecutors say matches the murder weapon. So that's why it's so pivotal that this evidence, if you're on the prosecution side, stay in this case, and why you're trying so hard, if you're on the defense side, to get it tossed out. But Luigi Mangione did not have, they call it suppression hearings, you know, suppress the evidence. And we've stopped the video because it's really too horrific to look at beyond that, to watch a father, a head of a healthcare company, lose his life in a midtown Manhattan street at like 6 in the morning. And again, this is an outside shot of the McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So on his person, in addition to the gun, Duarte, and the manifesto, they also found a fake driver's license. And that's what he was originally picked up on, because he showed a fake New Jersey driver's license and apparently used a fake name in the youth hostel that he stayed in before the murder, according to the prosecution, before this happened. So it's really, there are 30 witnesses, Michelle. One of our reporters was inside the courtroom. Lisa Evers on the outside of the courtroom, been there every day this week in Lower Manhattan. And these are state charges. He's also facing federal charges. And they tell me that there are 30 witnesses, and so far they've only called 7. So while it is supposed to end next week, could go a little bit longer, you know, and then of course we have the holidays and all that. But whatever the judge decides in this state case is really going to shape the case and definitely the trial coming up.
He has the state charges. He also has those federal charges. And the stakes are different in both of those.
That's right. In the federal case, he could face the death penalty for this. And that is what, you know, they're waiting to see what happens in the state. But one hinges on the other. So if for example, the gun gets dismissed in the state case, that could play into the federal case as well. And the lawyers could say, hey, in the federal case, they dismissed the gun in this case, so let's dismiss it in that too. So it's really important what happens in these pretrial motions.
So let's take a peek at next week.
Yeah.
What are we expecting to happen on Monday?
Well, we are expecting that Luigi Mangione will be better, and he will be able to show up to his suppression hearings, and we will expect to hear from the Altoona police officers, one of them who's only been on the force a very short time, like 6 months before this arrest occurred, and other officers who will take the stand and describe exactly what their interaction was. And it's all about what did he say, and what did he say, when did he say it, and does those statements, even his initial reaction and statements to cops, the defense team is trying to get tossed out as well.
Wow. A lot of developments. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Duarte. Appreciate it.
And coming up, we're going to be talking about one of what some people say is the worst airports in the country, and it's right in our area.
I'm not surprised somehow. I don't know why.
All that in 2 minutes. Happy holidays. Welcome back to Newsroom Live. You're looking at live pictures of New York City, all the hustle and bustle, and there's so many lives being lived right now. And you gotta believe that one of the people in those cars is heading to the airport. And we got some news. Apparently, one of the airports in our area was voted one of the most, if not the most, stress-inducing airport in the world. I gave you 1 second to figure out which one it is. Newark Airport, Newark Liberty International Airport. You go there, you don't know if you're going to get out. Now, this report ranks Newark as the most stressful airport in the world. Researchers, they looked at delays, cancellations, check-in times, security lines, and baggage problems. They didn't look at the attitudes, but you can see people are just sort of frustrated sitting there. Newark scored worse than every other major airport in the study, And this is including Lisbon, Manchester, JFK, and Chicago O'Hare. The Points guy sent a representative, Clint Henderson. He's joining us right now to explain why Newark struggles so much and to talk about the results of a new finding. But let's first, Clint, talk about Newark. I actually like the airport because it's big and there are a lot of comfortable things to do, but it can be stressful. Why did
Newark? It can't catch a break, man. So I will say this about Newark. They are investing a ton. The AirTrain system's about to undergo hundreds of millions of dollars in updates. They have a new terminal that's really nice that everyone raves about. But, you know, it's the usual things. They've got a severe air traffic controller shortage. That means a lot of delays, a lot of cancellations. You know, they have a lot of trouble when things go sideways with weather. They've moved the air traffic control for it to the Philadelphia area. That caused a lot of problems. You know, the airport just can't get a break. But I think it's not, I don't think it's the worst in the world, but certainly there's room for improvement. Let's just put it like that.
A lot of room for improvement. And we have a lot of people in the tri-state area that travel out of Newark. When you get a report like this and you go into what's arguably going to be the busiest travel time of the year, what are we supposed to do with this information? Should I be buying tickets out of Newark?
Yeah, I think it's okay. They seem to have stabilized things out of Newark, and I think the fact that the government shutdown ended when it did means things are going to be okay. But it is the airport in the tri-state area that's the most apt to have delays and cancellations because they have so few air traffic controllers. So I wouldn't say avoid it, but I would say know what's going on. If there's a weather system or you see that day they're having a lot of delays or cancellations, it might be wise to have a backup trip booked on an alternate airline from an alternate airport using points and miles so you can potentially get those refunded to you if you don't end up taking the ticket. But, you know, better safe than sorry, especially these days when planes are so full for the holidays.
Wait a minute. I got to make sure I understood you right. Having a backup ticket already booked, that to me seems a little wild given how expensive things are. But you're saying they're refundable? How does that work?
Okay, so what you would do is say you have a flight on United out of Newark. Most flights are United out of that airport. So you pay cash for that ticket, right? And then you book a backup flight. Say you have a stash of American Airlines miles. You book a backup flight out of LaGuardia going to your same destination on the same day. So if things go wrong in Newark that day, you're backed up at LaGuardia on American using miles that are refundable until the day of travel. So if you have to cancel that second trip last minute, you get your miles back. So that's what some of us were doing during the government shutdown, just to be safe. So that is an option if you're really stressed about it.
Seems like you're playing chicken. At what point do you pull the trigger and cancel it? I mean, can you do it a minute beforehand, an hour beforehand?
Yeah, so I would not cut it too close to a minute, but I would say in an hour beforehand you're going to be fine. And I would also say, you know, you probably have a good idea if your plane's going to make it out or not out of Newark that day. So you probably are going to be okay if you're like within that 2-hour, 3-hour window when you're heading to the airport. And, you know, use an app where you can track flights so you know what's happening at the airport. I use an app called Flighty that I love that tells me where the plane is 24 hours ahead of my flight. So you got to be a little crafty if you're going to make Newark your home airport. And let's face it, a lot of people who live, even people who live on the west side of Manhattan, it's easier to get to Newark than it is to go to JFK. Or if you just love United Airlines, or if you live in New Jersey, you're going to be flying out of Newark. So, you know, it's better to have a backup plan.
Certainly better. Very, very strategic. Now, you guys actually came out with a new study. What does your report say, your latest report?
Yeah, so we've got this Travel Trends 2026 report. So we're looking ahead to what travel is going to be like for the next year or so. We talk about the uncertain economic picture right now. You know, incoming travel to the United States by foreigners down about 14%. And we've done some polling with YouGov that finds a lot of travelers are going to try to spend less next year. So a lot of travelers end up saying this to pollsters, but then they don't actually spend less, they spend more. So we'll see if it pans out. But right now, consumers are worried about the economy, and they may be pulling back a little bit in the next year. So that's one trend that we're really watching. We're also watching where people are going, and there's some really up and coming destinations. Maybe you go to Key West, Florida instead of Miami. You go to Bozeman, Montana. You go to Springs in Colorado. So these alternate destinations that are not, the big tourist draws, they're up a lot in search results. So that's an interesting trend to watch. Another one is AI. We're really watching AI. Delta says 20% of its flights are going to be priced using artificial intelligence by the end of the year. So increasingly, especially Gen Z and millennials, they're using artificial intelligence in their travel planning. I don't love it, but a lot of the younger folks do, and it's getting more and more advanced every day. So another big trend we're watching.
And that's a little spooky because I know that AI has the ability to tell who is the high roller and who isn't. And if it suspects that you are more willing to pay, it may actually display higher prices to you.
So that's what we all want to avoid. That's what consumer advocates are worried about. Now the airlines are saying, no, we're not going to use it that way. It's not going to be used to set individual prices. But the problem is it's like a weapon. Once you have it, it's hard not to use it, right? So I'm interested to see how this plays out. For now, the airlines are insisting they're not using artificial intelligence to sort of dynamically price based on how much money they think you have. But I am a little bit suspicious.
Yeah, it doesn't quite make sense. Quickly, I know you mentioned that people are planning to spend a little bit more, rather spend a little bit less. If that information trickles down the system, does that mean that airlines, hotels, resorts, they're going to charge less? Or do you think they're just going to deal with fewer people buying their products?
So remember at the beginning of the year, the airlines were all warning that economy cabin sales were down substantially and they were cutting prices. Now that seemed to go away by the springtime. All the airlines were back on track. And so we weren't really seeing a reduction in prices, but it's so tied to demand. And when demand drops, they instantly lower prices. So they're very reactive both to raise prices and to lower prices. So if less people are traveling,
I'm going to stop you right there because our show is ending. Very good to have you.
It could be good news.
I know, right? Everyone's reacting to prices. You've been watching Newsroom Live. I'm Duarte Geraldino. You've been listening to Clint Henderson with The Points Guy. Thank you so much. Stay well.
Sorry.
Thanks for watching Fox 5's Newsroom Live. We're now joining Vive Now's non-stop stream of live and breaking news.
Right, you don't have that authority. We have to get this right. This is not just for this family. This is for any family. You have to get this right. You can't close a book in the middle of reading a chapter and say that that's closed and it's over. That's not how it works. You can't misclassify a death like this. When you misclassify a death, you're planting a lie in the soil where truth should grow. And as I said, to her credit, Stephanie Rodriguez was very close to her daughter, very close. Talked to her daily. Knew everything that she was up to, everything that she was doing. The very first interaction she had with the detective from the Austin Police Department, he told her, your daughter committed suicide. The very first reaction, the very first interaction. At that point, he hadn't talked to one witness, he hadn't seen her phone, he hadn't done anything. That's sloppy and irresponsible. He claims she made suicidal comments. He told us in the Zoom call, she made suicidal comments. You know what he was talking about? The other day, when I was talking to a friend the other day, I said, man, you're gonna make me jump off a bridge. That's what he's talking about. Silliness like that. He later claimed she was making those kinds of statements on the day or the night that she died. If that's the case, why did their friends leave her out on the balcony by herself? If that's true, because it's not true. None of the things that we've been told by the Austin Police Department are consistent with the actual facts that we've learned. The detective was talking about suicide before he was ever given her phone. Then he gets into her phone and he sees an essay that she wrote and he calls it a suicide note. She took creative writing the semester before. Now, I don't know what the purpose of that. We'll never know what the purpose of what she wrote and deleted, but this is, the suggestion was that she left a, quote, suicide note. Total malarkey. Total malarkey. There's something she wrote on the 25th. She talked to her mother on the 25th. She was with her boyfriend on the night of the 25th. She was talking to her mother every single day after that. We see pictures of her smiling. We see pictures of her having fun. We see pictures of her partying. Total baloney, what they're trying to sell to you. And why? Am I suggesting that there's some kind of conspiracy? No, I'm suggesting they're lazy and they're incompetent. Just so I'm clear, I'm not suggesting any sort of conspiracy that that there's some kind of somebody in power that wants this to go. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that there's incompetence and laziness on the part of the detective. That's what I'm suggesting. The suggestion they've made is she wrote an essay, because it's not a note. She wrote an essay on the 25th that she deleted, and then she goes and kills herself 5 days later, 4 days later. This is their logic. It's really ridiculous. So, you know, a few things they didn't bother to even explain. I don't even know what they did, honestly. I know what we've done. We sent someone to the apartment. We had someone take the dimensions of the apartment. We had somebody measure the railing and the height of the railing. We know how tall Brianna was. She was 5'2". The railing's 44 inches. You don't fall over it. There's no furniture out in the balcony. There's nothing to climb up on, to jump off. Anyone that's on that little balcony, it's literally as big as this. It's a little bitty old balcony, and there's a window just like that you can see onto the balcony. The apartment is like a dorm. It's very small. There's no way you can be in that apartment and hide. If you're in the apartment, people know you're in the apartment. It's a little small apartment. No offense to the apartment complex, but that's what it is. It's like a little double-room dorm with a small balcony with no furniture. These are easy things to find out. Things that you would say, wait a minute, you're saying that this young lady was out on the balcony and she was 5'2", she had to somehow climb over the railing to try to kill herself? Then certainly you guys could see that. Certainly you knew that was happening. How could that possibly be? It doesn't make any sense because it didn't happen that way. She was 100 pounds, 5'2". There's no way she could fall over that railing accidentally. There's no way to be on the balcony and you be inside and not know somebody's on the balcony. It's not possible. It's almost impossible to be inside the apartment and not know somebody's in the apartment with you, even though there's 2 little bedrooms. This is called common sense. I tell you what's most concerning. They didn't explore the fight that Brianna apparently had with somebody at the tailgate at the Austin Rugby Club. I think she went to, what was the name of the tailgate that they had there? Some student organization.
Latin Economic Business Development.
Latin Economic Business Development tailgate at the Austin Rugby Club. There was an altercation between her and another female. No investigation of that. Turns out that other female was in the apartment with her that night. There was a witness between 12:30 and 1 a.m. who posted on TikTok. Many of you have seen it. Young man posted on TikTok that he could hear up above at around the 17th floor in that general area, fighting, screaming. Somebody saying, "Get off of me!" And then a muffled sound. He posted it, got many, many views. You can get on TikTok and look at it now. We talked to him this morning. You guess what? Here's the irony. Or maybe here's the tragedy. The police didn't bother to talk to him. Now, why wouldn't they talk to him? He had incredibly specific information about what he heard. He could hear it loud enough. He could hear the words that were spoken. Get off of me, and screaming, and then a muffled cry between 12:30 and 1 p.m. right next to the apartment. We had an expert say, wait a minute, could he hear that? We had to engage an expert to say, is it possible that he could actually hear that? The expert said, absolutely. Absolutely could hear that. It makes a lot of sense. Never talked to by the police. We have a witness who was in the apartment across from the apartment where this apparently occurred, who could hear running back and forth and screaming. And then she said, I could tell something bad had happened. Did y'all know this? Ridiculous. Her entire family was in the apartment. The police could have talked to her and several other people. They failed to look into the anonymous message that was sent. There was an anonymous message that was posted that said, hey, I have specific information that this young lady was locked out on the balcony. Did you know that? It's not part of the investigation. Why is it not part of the investigation? Because they made their decision literally within minutes. Within minutes. Now here's where it gets a little dicey, and here's where I'm having it, and I want to be very careful because I don't want to be accusing anybody, because I'm not accusing anybody other than the APD, the Austin Police Department, not doing its job. At first we were told that she jumped from the balcony and the three ladies, the three young women that were in the apartment, and we're talking about, as I said, a tiny little apartment, were asleep and didn't know where she was. That's what we were told first. That they were asleep, they didn't even know she was on the balcony, they didn't know where she was, and that's the reason why they didn't call the police until 12:15 the next day. That's what we were told. That's part of the cops' timeline. Okay? Put up the timeline, Ryan. They said, according to the plot, we haven't talked to them, who were in the apartment, three of them, one of which was the lessor or the lessee of the apartment, who vacated the apartment the very next day and never went back. Did you know that? This is the timeline that the police gave us yesterday. This is the timeline. And if you can't look at that timeline and 1 second point out the problem of that timeline, then you're not doing your job. We'll get to it. So at first we're told that the three women didn't know where she was and they were asleep. That's what we were told. And that they didn't know where she was, they were looking for her, and they were texting her mom, and it wasn't, and they decided about 12:14 the next day, 6 hours later almost, that they decided at that point they couldn't find her, so they were going to call the police. This is what we were told by the Austin Police Department. Lay aside what was heard happening at about 12:30 to 1 o'clock that night. Lay aside what the witness across the hall said. Lay aside what the man down on the street said. Just disregard all that. This is what the police say. It must be right, according to them, because they did such a thorough investigation. This is what they gave us. Not one of you have asked a question about it. Not one of you. But this is what they said. Her friends called the police at 12:14 the next day because they didn't know where she was. They hadn't seen her. They thought maybe she had went out. That's what they said. Keep that in your mind. When I asked the police that, like, wait a minute, how is that possible? How is that possible? A whole group of 14 or so people came into the apartment that night after they'd been out partying. They got there about 11 or so. Everybody left, right? That's what they say. And it left just 4 girls there, 4 young women, right? And the 4 young women, 3 of them didn't call the police till 12 o'clock the next day because they didn't know where she was. That's what the police say. Lay aside what the witnesses have said about that, and lay aside the fact that that's a really small apartment. It's hard to get lost in that little small apartment. I want you to look very carefully. The first entry on the timeline. According to the police, let me walk over there. Excuse me. Brianna did not have her phone. She didn't have her phone, so she had to call to make a call. According to the police, she borrowed her friend's phone, meaning one of the three women that was in the apartment. Now look at this very carefully. According to the police, she borrowed her friend's phone and made a call from 12:43, and it lasted 1 minute. At 12:46, 2 minutes later, the police were responding to a 911 call because she was outside on the ground. Now do the math. So you're probably thinking, well, she must have, she hung up her friend's phone and she just jumped. She hung up the phone, she dropped it on the balcony, she jumped. First question you should have is, where's the phone? What did she do with the phone? I asked the police that 3 different times. 3 times. They sidestepped me every time until this morning. They sidestepped me because they hadn't thought about it, because they rushed to judgment. They finally answered the question this morning. And you know what they said to me this morning? And they said it, and they didn't even realize what they were telling me because they're so sloppy. I made them put it in writing. I have it here. I'll read it to you. Austin Police Department did not find the phone on Miss Aguilera. Miss Aguilera returned the phone to its owner before she was seen going onto the balcony. Now, how is that possible? That is 180 degrees different than what you told us previous. That is absolutely contrary to what you told us previous. Previous, you said the 3 women were asleep. You said they didn't know where she went. But then when I asked the one question over and over and you had to answer it, then all of a sudden we realized if she did in fact use her friend's phone like they claim, if she did in fact use it for 1 minute and was found already 2 minutes later by a passerby and the police were already responding to a 911 call, think about that, what the ramifications of that are. That whoever phone she was using was standing right next to her as she went over the balcony, if she went over the balcony. Now you're saying to yourselves, well, shoot, there's got to be a reasonable explanation. We should talk to the witnesses. We should investigate. We should figure this out. That's what we're saying. Now you're getting it. You sat there, and with all due respect, you all, I watched it. You all sat there, and you had this corporal, or whatever he is, lead detective, and Mrs. Rodriguez will tell you how he is and her interactions with him in just one moment. But you let him stand at a podium just like this and feed you total baloney. And all you had to do is say, wait a minute, detective, wait a minute. She borrowed somebody's phone. Where is that phone? Maybe she must have went over the railing with it. She had to give somebody. No, according to him, she returned it to its owner before she was seen walking back out to the balcony. Absolutely impossible. Very suspicious. We have a problem. And I shouldn't have to ask the detective 3 times the same question, should I? I shouldn't have to do that. But I did it, and I'm going to keep doing it. And another thing, why would you tell these kids, the boyfriend who Stephanie knows, who's been over to her house, who her daughter has been dating, they're in love, why would you, detective, tell him not to speak to Stephanie Rodriguez? Don't talk to her. What kind of foolishness is that? Just absolute insensitive and inhumane in my view. Before I go any further, I'm getting a little incensed here. Let me introduce to you Stephanie Rodriguez. She wants to read to you a statement, and I hope you'll give her your full attention.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Rodriguez, and I'm the mother of Brianna Aguilera. Brianna was a driven, disciplined, and caring person. She was beautiful. She was a loving daughter, a protective big sister, and a caring granddaughter. A second mom to her 2 younger brothers. Her baby was her little Yorkie, Ava. All of us were her best friend. She made everyone around her feel loved and supported. I considered her my best friend, not just a mother-daughter relationship. We talked every day, and she would tell me everything. I miss her so much. Her brothers miss her too. Her father and grandmother miss her so much, and so do all her friends. Brianna grew up as an all-star cheerleader, an incredible athlete. She was an honor student and a member of the National Honor Society all throughout school. Christmas was her favorite time of year. She loved decorating, baking, and hiding the elf on the shelf for her little brother. Her brothers already miss her so much. Brianna graduated magna cum laude from high school. She was accepted to many colleges, but chose Texas A&M. She was studying political science and criminal justice. She was not like most young girls. She loved writing more than watching TV. Her favorite class at A&M were her creative writing classes. She dreamed of attending law school in New York and wanted to become a criminal defense lawyer. She was so smart and had such a bright future. She dreamt of a life of where she could make a difference. My daughter was not suicidal. I know my daughter better than anyone. We spoke every day. I spoke to her on the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th. Even the morning of the 28th, she was not suicidal. To the Austin police, I can deal with you being annoyed each time I called or tried to talk to you. I can deal with how arrogantly you talked down to us each time we talked. I can deal with you telling my daughter's friends not to talk to me like I am some sort of criminal. But I cannot deal with you doing a news conference and saying false things about my child without a thorough investigation. I cannot deal with you jumping to conclusions and not performing an actual investigation. I cannot deal with your failure to do your job. Do your job.
The police, as much as I've always been a supporter of the police, with all due respect to them, do not determine cause of death. That's not their job. Their job, that job, is specifically reserved for the medical examiner's office. There is no medical examiner in the county, then it's the JP in the county. In Austin, it's the job of the medical examiner to determine cause of death, not Detective Robert Marshall. The medical examiner told us that a rape kit was done and the autopsy will be performed. It'll take us 60 to 90 days. So that begs the question, why did Detective Robert Marshall tell us that they had reached their conclusion and that the investigation was complete? Doesn't work that way. How is it that Robert Marshall has determined the cause of this young woman's death? He doesn't have that authority. His job is to question all the witnesses. We've already offered up several. We'll offer up several more for him to do his job. Hopefully a different investigator will be involved. There are many questions about what was done here, about what happened on that night. And it's already going to be incredibly difficult for the Austin Police Department to conduct an objective investigation at this point. And that's because the way that the Austin Police Department has handled this and jumped to conclusions within hours of this tragedy disqualifies the Austin Police Department from further investigation of this matter. So, I'm doing this today. I'm calling on the Austin Police Department to reopen the investigation with a different investigator, to reassign Robert Marshall and put this in the hands of a different investigator. Failing that, I will be calling on the governor to engage the Texas Rangers. We will submit a formal packet to them with all the evidence we have gathered so far, and we will gather. We intend to present 30 to 40 pages of information, statements, and other factual data that they need to do a proper investigation. And here are the questions I hope are answered. Austin Police Department, why would you close your investigation without having all the facts? Why not wait for the autopsy results? Why not wait for the rape kit result? And who would you send it to if you've already made up your mind? Why not question all the witnesses, the ones that we've questioned? The young man who was down on the ground, who heard somebody say, "Get off of me," or the young lady and her family across the hall who heard running, screaming, and, quote, something bad had happened. Why not question them? Why not examine all the phones of the friend group? We asked that question in the Zoom call. You know what we were told? We don't have the power to look at their phones. Hogwash. Hogwash. You have that power, and you need to do it. Why hold a hasty press conference to announce that this young lady had killed herself without even talking to her mother to see what her affect was leading up to the 28th? You heard what she said. She knows her daughter. She knows her daughter more than anyone. Why not talk to the friends immediately? Why wait? Why wait to talk to her friend group? Why not talk to them immediately? Why did you let the owner of the apartment, that is the young woman who was leasing the apartment, vacate the apartment? Literally vacate the apartment and leave town. Why won't the boyfriend talk to us? The boyfriend that was a longtime boyfriend of this young lady and was very friendly with her mother. Why can't we see the texts? Why can't we see the phones? Where's her wallet? Where's Brianna's wallet? It's missing. They didn't tell you that, did they? I see you writing. They didn't tell you that, did you? If you had asked the question, they would have told you that. They told you what they wanted you to hear. They didn't tell you the complete facts. Her wallet is missing. Why did her friends wait until 12:14 the next day to report her missing? If she had borrowed the phone and returned it the night of, 2 minutes before she jumped her death. Why didn't they examine the balcony? Why didn't they examine the railing? Why didn't they see if there was some sort of table there, a chair there that somebody who's 5'2" would have to step on to get over the railing? Why didn't they look for scuff marks? Why didn't they do anything? They didn't even bother to look to whether if somebody did in fact jump off the balcony, whether they would end up in the tree that's 30 some odd foot forward of the apartment. Y'all didn't ask that question either. The laws of physics aren't different in the city of Austin, you realize. The same laws of physics as exist here in Houston. If, when the phone call came in at 12:46 and the officers responded to the 911 call, if it was so obvious that this young woman had fallen to her death, why was it till 6 o'clock, 5 hours later, that they ever went into the apartment complex? If it was so obvious that that's how she had died. These are the questions you should be asking. At the press conference, you didn't ask any questions. You didn't ask any questions. You just lapped it up like it was cool water and you were very thirsty. Very disappointing to me. So, we have given you a lot of information. We're going to submit a packet. I'm going to call on the governor to, I don't expect, based on the conduct I saw from the police chief of Austin, her defensive manner that she approached the podium yesterday, I don't expect any relief from her. I don't expect she's going to say, King's X, oh, you're right, this was sloppy, it was not thorough, it was kind of embarrassing. We're going to get a different detective to start over. I don't expect that to happen. I expect what's going to happen is I'm going to send a formal letter to the governor asking for the Texas Rangers to be engaged. And I'm going to submit a detailed packet to the governor's office and ultimately to the Texas Rangers to actually do an investigation to figure out what actually happened, because we still don't know. Notice I haven't suggested to you what happened, because I don't know. I'm starting to get a sneaking suspicion. So I've given you a lot of information. So what is your headline? Your headline is this: there are serious and disturbing questions raised with regard to the Austin Police Department's handling of the investigation surrounding the death of Breonna Aguilera. The Texas Rangers have now been called to intervene. Thank you very much. Let's go.
How long are you willing to give APD to reassign?
All right, everyone, you are watching live now from Fox. That was that in-demand news conference happening earlier today with the family of Breonna Aguilera coming together, disputing the investigation into the death there of Breonna. We'll continue to follow it for you right here on Live Now from Fox. We'll take a 2-minute break. Be back with more in just moments. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Page. Thanks again for joining us. Live look right now at the White House, continuing to bring you some of the day's biggest top stories and headlines. I do want to show you the remarks here from President Trump that he put out on X, making this statement saying today, the CDC Vaccine Committee made a very good decision to end their hepatitis B vaccine recommendation for babies, the vast majority of whom are at no risk of hepatitis B, a disease that is mostly transmitted sexually or through dirty needles. The American Childhood Vaccine Schedule long required 72 jabs for perfectly healthy babies, far more than any other country in the world and far more than is necessary. In fact, it is ridiculous. Many parents and scientists have been questioning the effect of this schedule as having it saying that this is why I have just signed a presidential memorandum directing the Department of Health and Human Services to fast track a comprehensive evaluation of vaccine schedules from other countries around the world and better align the U.S. vaccine schedule so it finally rooted in the gold standard of science and common sense. I am fully confident Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the CDC will get this done quickly and correctly for our nation's children. Thank you for your attention. to this matter. Make America healthy again, he writes. So I do want to take you to that CDC hearing from earlier today. Let's listen in.
That is not fair. You invoked Stanley Plotkin and Walter Orenstein, whom I know well, and that is so disingenuous. They have done more to support the vaccines and the health of children in the United States than almost anybody else. And for you to include them as skeptics is a gross distortion of the facts. Now, let me just go to a couple of points. You talked about the polio vaccine, and you said the current killed, that is the Salk vaccine that we're using now, does not prevent transmission. Well, that is correct. But why are we using the Salk vaccine instead of the Sabin vaccine? It was because the Sabin vaccine was associated with about a dozen cases of vaccine-related paralytic poliomyelitis every year. And so the decision was made to switch to the killed vaccine. You said, oh, it doesn't block transmission. Well, it doesn't block transmission, at least not very effectively. But there's a reason, because it would have been much more harm if we continued using the live vaccine. Let's go to the acellular pertussis vaccine. You said the acellular pertussis vaccine does not block transmission. That's probably true. It doesn't block it as well as the whole cell vaccine. But the reason we stopped using the whole cell vaccine is because it was associated with an increased risk of side effects that we could avoid by using a cellular vaccine. So of course it's an issue of weighing, we're going to lose the prevention of transmission, but we're going to reduce any harm and make the vaccine safer. How about the diphtheria vaccine? Well, you know, there was a recent report about from Europe that described over 500 cases of diphtheria in immigrants who had not been vaccinated. And there were, I think, 2 or 3 deaths among that cohort. Well, it goes to the point that the pathogens that cause these diseases are still around us. And if we stop vaccinating, we are going to see increases in rates of disease. So the same thing about your discussion about Prevnar. Prevnar began at 7-valent. It's now a number of additional serotypes that are included in the vaccine. That is the most wonderful, remarkable vaccine. It has had an enormous impact on public health. In fact, the public health benefits have been far greater among people who were not vaccinated, that is the adults, than it had on children who were vaccinated. Because initially it wasn't recommended for adults. Now it is recommended for adults. That's another conversation. But the implication is that the safety of this vaccine was not measured. That's outrageous. You compared it. You said that you can't do seroconversion studies as a means of evaluating vaccines. Of course you can do seroconversion studies, because if we did efficacy trials with new pneumococcal vaccine, new pertussis vaccines, it would be almost impossible because the disease has become so rare. So if there are trials that would reasonably be done, they would. You say, oh, the FDA has licensed a vaccine, and then the next day or a few days later or a few weeks later, the ACIP recommends that vaccine. Well, That's a good thing, right? We're preventing disease. All you're focusing on are these very rare, ill-defined side effects and completely ignoring the extraordinary benefit and promise that these vaccines apply to us. You're a very effective lawyer, no question. You're very smooth. You know how to present the facts that are favorable to you or to your client. That's your responsibility. That's what you're paid, and I suspect very handsomely, I suspect that's what you're paid to do, to sue people. But for you to come here and make these absolutely outrageous statements about safety, I think it's a big disappointment to me, and I don't think you should have been invited. I will be completely honest. Over.
Thanks, Cody. That just to keep track of time, we now only have 8 minutes left. But Mr. Siri, a number of, I hope you're able to keep track of that.
Yeah.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Appreciate that, and Cody, thank you for the comments. I'll just respond to them in turn. In terms of why I had a slide about the increasing number of vaccines is because I was asked to discuss the development schedule, which I figured showing how many vaccines increased was part of what I would present. In terms of your comment that is, something to be marveled at, I never addressed that, but I will point out that we, in terms of developed countries in the United States, have the worst health outcomes amongst all developed countries. And so that is something to, really think about when you're thinking about overall health in this country. In terms of your claiming that you may not have the time to address all my points, I welcome a debate with you if you'd like. I will sit with you for 2 hours here in this forum or any other forum if you'd like, and we can go point by point. If you'd like to do that, I welcome that. In terms of Dr. Paul Offit, I should say I have had a back and forth with him online in writing, and it's all available. It was on Twitter first and then moved over to Substack, so on mine, then on his. So you can feel free to see Paul Offit and I debating actually specifically about vaccine clinical trials. And I think actually it's a very telling exchange with citations instead of just verbally. And I encourage everybody in the media in particular to go look at my exchange with Dr. Paul Offit and look at every single cited reference that he cites and what I cite. In terms of Dr. Plotkin and Dr. Orenstein, I was citing their article. I'm sorry you take offense to that, but that just is what it is. And obviously, if Dr. Plotkin and I have spent 9 hours together in a deposition, you can watch all of that if you'd like. In terms of IPV not preventing transmission, yes, I certainly understand the switch over from OPV to IPV. And it was good that that OPV caused paralysis was recognized, but I would say that there's a number of vaccines today that also cause paralysis via transverse myelitis, Guillain-Barré syndrome. I have clients whose children are in a wheelchair today from vaccines. I don't think that those folks are considered ill-defined or rare, and that's exactly the point I was trying to make earlier. Treating those folks like they don't exist, Dr. Meisner, is what is going to breed vaccine hesitancy. They're there, they exist, just like they happen for OPV. It just took a long time for folks to accept that. In terms of DTP vaccine, I would say that most of the circles in the medical community in America still don't admit that that vaccine was really problematic, though it's nice to hear you slightly admit that on right now. In terms of diphtheria, the point is that there are environmental factors that impact diphtheria, in particular its pathogenicity. And so those, for example, those immigrants you discussed who have diphtheria, when you look at the underlying science, when the studies around this, certain living conditions create an environment where diphtheria can be more harmful and cause disease, where it doesn't seem to be the case when those environmental factors are absent. I never said, by the way, stop vaccinating. I don't know why you're saying I said that or reflecting that I did. I think this is America. I agree with you. Everybody should be free to get as many vaccines as they want. I encourage and I encourage, excuse me, I support everybody's right to get as many vaccines as they want. That's freedom. And the same token, everybody should be free without any coercion or penalty to refuse a vaccine. In terms of saying that it's ridiculous to claim that PCV was not properly trialed before licensure, respectfully, sir, I think it's ridiculous to claim it the other way. Just using your term, I normally wouldn't use that word. I think the data speak for itself. Licensing a vaccine by using another experimental vaccine as a control, I think fairly falls into the word, again, your word, ridiculous. I would just say it's not proper. I would just say that that's not an appropriate control. It does not establish a baseline of safety. And had the subsequent iterations of after that had not had serious adverse events, we're talking about babies, 2, 4, 6 months, at 8, 9%. Okay, but it did. And that should be highly concerning when you don't have a baseline of safety in your initial trial. I don't understand why that should be controversial. I really can't. I also never said you can't use correlates of protection. I don't know why you're saying that, sir. Obviously, if you have a properly licensed, effective vaccine for a disease that has been properly licensed, that is the standard of care, and that should be used as the control. And obviously, in a post-elimination environment, if that vaccine prevented transmission, obviously you'll have to use correlates of protection. I have no issue with that. I've read Chapter 2 of Plotkin's vaccine book and correlates of protection. I reflect back to you, Dr. Malone, your comments about correlate protection and the complexities on them, how I actually have to litigate correlates of protection. In any event, I'll just, in terms of being paid handsomely, I will assure you that this is not a very lucrative endeavor. But putting that aside, I think the most egregious thing, if I may, is to call and reflect on folks who've been injured by these products as somehow rare and ill-defined. There are clear, serious risks. You just stop listening to parents. The Institute, HRSA didn't give that long list of harms to the Institute of Medicine out of nowhere. Didn't come out of Grok or ChatGPT. It's real. These are real lives. These are real people. Now, I understand, I totally understand that an infectious disease doctor every day is confronted by folks who are harmed by infectious disease. So I understand that they are more oriented towards that. And obviously for me, I every day have encountered folks who are injured by these products. And so obviously I'm more oriented to that. I accept that bias, by the way. I accept it. But I am willing to say that that children can die of infectious disease. But the families who are impacted the other way, they're just not treated right. And until they are recognized, treated well, accepted by medical community, don't have nasty notes put in their file if they say it's from vaccine. I've seen that often and over and over. That's just going to continue to grow vaccine hesitancy in this precious program that you're worried about. You're going to be its own undoing.
Well, all right, everyone, you are watching live now from Fox. So we will take a 2-minute break. When we come back, more from this at times chaotic meeting. We'll be back with more on Live Now from Welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. I appreciate you continuing to join with us this evening, bringing you top stories and headlines. I want to go back out to that CDC hearing today. So much was made of it, especially with the rollback requirements in the vaccines when it comes to hepatitis B. Well, let's listen in.
Transmission among the elderly. They saw the uptake was low. They also saw that it didn't have the desired effect of reducing transmission to the elderly. So by 2023, they took it back off of the schedule. So they tried something and monitored it, and it did not work. And so then they removed that from the schedule. So influenza is an interesting vaccine because, as many of you know, we do not have randomized controlled data in any age group showing that it reduces hospitalization, death, or transmission. So that's outlined in 3 different Cochrane reviews of different age groups. And then Pandemrix vaccine, that actually was something that I think alerted a lot of Europe to this issue of the problems that you can see when you vaccinate a very low risk group. And so the Pandemrix vaccine resulted, actually, it had a very high high rate of side effects, of severe adverse effects. But the most famous was narcolepsy, which developed in over 1,000 children, and there was very delayed recognition and reporting of this occurring, which is a very serious side effect. And so it really, at that time, that vaccine was recommended in countries such as Finland and France and Sweden, and I think it made a lot of countries in Europe, kind of consider, be more careful about their vaccination recommendations in low-risk groups. And as I stated now, essentially all of Europe does not recommend yearly vaccination of children with the influenza vaccine, unless their countries have different recommendations for children with risk factors. So the hepatitis B vaccine, so I'll get into the English version there. So if one includes this is the Danish decision making behind whether or not to include the hepatitis B vaccine in the child vaccination schedule. So they state, if one includes a vaccine which some consider less important, it could negatively affect the view of vaccines in general. The result of this could be that the current vaccination program would have lower uptake. So these are the sorts of things that they consider in their decision making. And then they have, I alluded to this yesterday, that they have this extensive risk-benefit analysis that they published along with their decision not to recommend the hepatitis B vaccine. And they publish these analyses regularly because they continue to monitor if they have more information about the risks and benefits. And so there are substantial costs of the hepatitis B vaccine and low opportunity for benefit. So this is for the childhood program. Population-wide vaccination could not be justified from a health economics perspective. And so instead they've created this list of high-risk groups, which they will give vaccination and so in coverage for, so insurance for vaccination. And in terms of the meningococcal vaccine, so this is also, they published their decision making, and this is their medical journal. So they state again, the opportunity for benefit among non-high-risk children is very low. Again, I'll get back to the point that I made about the very similar incidents between Denmark and the United States. They cited uncertainty about effectiveness, and adding additional vaccines to the core vaccine list may cause some parents to opt out of other vaccines. If the vaccine causes fevers in an infant when given with other vaccines, this could have negative consequences for physicians and parents. So they take these things into consideration when making their recommendations. And then they make a list of the high-risk conditions that where they say that people should consider getting the vaccine. And one of them is that I thought was interesting was they actually specifically mention U.S. is the only country that they mention where they say it is going to be required if you travel to the United States as a student to study. And so they make that caveat. So again, showing how we're an outlier in requiring that vaccine. So rotavirus, the rationale for not including the rotavirus vaccine is, so and this is going to be up for review again. So it has until now been the message of the Danish Ministry of Health that Denmark not introduce vaccines into the child vaccination schedule just because it is an option. The Danish child vaccination program has a goal of protecting children from infections that can be either deadly or have long-term health consequences. Infection with rotavirus essentially never results in death or chronic consequences in a country like Denmark. Literature review has not shown that this vaccine has an effect on children's mortality. So this was the basis of their decision making. In terms of the varicella vaccine, which they also don't currently recommend, they worry that natural immunity is stronger. Only 4% of general and family physicians would recommend the vaccine to healthy children, and there's insufficient data about long-term effects. As in the pros in their decision-making was that Denmark has very low rate of stay-at-home parents, and they would miss less work. But so they thus far have decided not to implement that into their vaccination schedule and prefer children to get varicella at a young age. Now they're going to revisit this, interestingly, because they have made the vaccine available for purchase, which they believe is increasing the average age that the children are now getting varicella, and it's causing more severe varicella infections. So they may actually end up introducing this into the vaccine schedule because of having made the vaccine available for purchase. And I went over that already. So here, RSV, long-acting monoclonal antibodies, also not on their schedule, and it's not even available for high-risk infants in Denmark. There are actually very few countries that are currently recommending this. This was discussed in the previous ACIP meeting in June, that there is this unfavorable imbalance in all-cause mortality in all 4 phase 3 randomized trials, and the 2 nirsevimab and clesrovimab are the 2 long-acting monoclonal antibodies for prevention of RSV. So I just made this forest plot to show visually what that looks like, and the p-value that I got, and there's different methods for calculating the p-value, but I got a p-value of 0.068, so not quite statistically significant, but yet this is very concerning to see this in all 4 randomized trials, to see that there's actually a higher death rate. And so, I think that this is something that could also be revisited by ACIP, and this is just to show that Denmark has taken the approach of giving parents the option of buying certain vaccines if they're not generally recommended and covered, and so I just wanted to show that that's another way that they differ from the United States. So some of the benefits of the Danish child vaccination schedule, that it may increase trust and focus on the core vaccines. It may be increasing general uptake of those vaccines throughout the entire population. It's based on thorough, transparent decision making, which is continually updated and debated. They have been able to prevent outbreaks of the most deadly and serious vaccine preventable diseases. The fact that so they do things differently than are done in the United States in terms of their recommendations does mean that there is international equipoise. So for these vaccines, we really do have an opportunity to do randomized trials to look at, for potential safety concerns, if there's residual questions about efficacy. So I think that's important to keep in mind. When people say that it's unethical to do the trial, look at other high-income nations and see, do they recommend it? If not, it would be ethical to do that trial in almost all circumstances. I mean, there could be exceptions I'm not considering, but something to consider. And make more, so I got into this already, that if there's less focus on vaccines, there's more time for addressing overall health at doctor's appointments, and less visits to doctors means less time in the healthcare system and decreased medicalization of childhood. So I think there is an opportunity to better define high-risk groups when you don't make a general recommendation to all, so to be sure to target them. for vaccination and improve informed consent and minimize coercion because they do not have mandates. And I think that's just about it. Yeah, I think I'll actually end there. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Hogue. Allow us to take a few more moments of your time, if you don't mind, before your upcoming important government meeting. We have on the schedule until 2:55, and it's currently at 2:37. So once again, we're a little bit tight. Starting with ACIP members, questions for the presenter. Vicki?
So I know you were here to talk about the childhood schedule, but I'm just curious about whether Denmark vaccinates pregnant women.
So I know they recently removed the recommendation for the COVID-19 vaccine during pregnancy because they had listed that, and now they removed that. They do recommend, so I hope I'm not wrong about this. I'm going from memory now, but so they do recommend the influenza vaccine and during pregnancy, and I am actually not sure about the RSV vaccine. I would have to look that up. I apologize.
Dr. Levy.
So thanks. This was fascinating. When I listened to your presentation, I kind of there were three things that were highlighted to me as fundamentals for creating trust in public health policies, and maybe more specifically vaccine programs. The first of which is common sense. It seems that they apply a far more common sense approach, and it starts with the way they think about risk and the way they think about the risk of the infection, of getting infected, and the outcomes, and really focus on medical interventions on the places where it matters the most.
Yes.
The second thing is that they avoid mandates and coercion, and they.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Right now on the 10 o'clock news.
This is shocking.
United States of America.
The stage is set. FIFA World Cup excitement setting in from the U.S. position to what's being called the group of death. We break down the outcomes from today's big draw. And Arctic air sends temperatures tumbling, creating dangerously cold conditions. Good evening. Welcome to the 10 o'clock news. I'm Steve Lacey. Natasha has the night off. Canadian winds to blame for this frigid weather, but there might be a little bit of relief as we head into the weekend. Chief Meteorologist Nick Gregory is here, and this is the type of cold that really stings when you step outside, Nick.
It sure does, especially this morning, and it'll be cold this weekend, Steve, but not quite as cold like this. We'll look at some of these records today. 15 at Bridgeport this morning, breaking the old record of 17. It was 20 at both LaGuardia and Kennedy. One tied the record, the other broke the record. And look at some of these lows this morning to the north. 6 there, Poughkeepsie, 2 below up there in Monticello, 8 degrees, single digits there in Sussex, 14 White Plains, even 17 out in the Hamptons was 20 in Midtown. Well, it's not quite that cold now, but the temperatures have really not moved much this evening. We're still in the 20s, North Jersey, across the Hudson Valley into Connecticut, holding at 32 in the city and 33 down by the Jersey Shore. Mostly a calm wind or a light north wind, northeast wind about 5 miles an hour or so. There is some moisture off to the south, and that's what we're going to be watching, maybe to produce a little bit of light snow or snow showers or a little freezing drizzle, because it's, again, close to the freezing mark in most of the area here, and it'll stay that way. Temperatures may rise a little towards tomorrow morning, and that threat goes till late morning, early afternoon. We may start to see a little break in the cloud cover. Upper 30s, lower 40s tomorrow, so that's definitely an improvement, and we're going to stay chilly on Sunday as sun gives to clouds. Again, temperatures start in the 20s and 30s and end up about 40 in the afternoon. Steve?
Very well. All right. Thanks, Nick. Well, the groups are set for the opening stage of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Team USA USA, expected to be a favorite in its group. They'll begin their quest for a World Cup title on June 12th when they kick off against Paraguay in Group D. This World Cup will be bigger than past tournaments, with 48 teams, expanded from 32, competing in 104 games over 5 weeks. The group stage and following knockout round will take place in 16 cities across the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, with the final that will be played, of course, at MetLife Stadium. Fox 5's Jennifer Williams here in studio with all of today's buzz and excitement. Jen.
Thanks, Steve. It's an exciting day indeed, and vying for their first spot ever in their first ever final is the U.S. men's national team. But first things first, they've got to get out of the group stage on Friday, June 12th at SoFi Stadium, home of the Los Angeles Chargers. The U.S. men's national team will kick off their quest for their first ever World Cup title against Paraguay, a squad they beat in a friendly last month 2-1. Now, this is just the second time the United States has hosted the World Cup after last hosting it back in 1994, and this is the 12th appearance for the Americans on the sport's biggest stage. And while the final roster won't be set until May, this squad is really riding the momentum of a run to the round of 16 in 2022, in which a young Team USA exceeded expectations. As for 2026, the Stars and Stripes, the top seed in Group D, also drew Australia, a team they beat in a friendly last month, to a 2-1 comeback win, 2 goals by Haji Wright. And rounding out the group will be a winner of Playoff C, which will be Kosovo, Romania, Slovakia, or Turkey A, in what many are calling a winnable draw for the Americans. U.S. men's national team manager Mauricio Pochettino couldn't hide how he felt about the draw.
I see the smile on your face. It feels like you're somewhat happy with this draw.
No. I think we need to respect all the opponent, and I think all is going to be difficult. We know very well Paraguay that was doing so well in the qualification in South America. Australia, until we play in Denver, were unbeaten for 12, 13 games, and of course that we are going to see which is another team that is going to join us.
I think every young kid, when you're growing up, you think of, World Cups, and when you're out in the backyard or front yard, kicking the ball around, saying this is the penalty for the World Cup. I mean, at least growing up for me, I never grew up saying like this was, for a Premier League free kick or whatever it was that you were practicing. Everything was the World Cup. Everything was centered about representing your country.
Now, you don't have to wait until June to see the Stars in action MLS Cup final. On our air Saturday at 2:30, Lionel Messi and Inter Miami taking on the Vancouver Whitecaps. Messi, of course, won his first World Cup title in 2022, and Argentina is ranked second heading into next summer's tournament. The team beat France, who is third, and the top-ranked team at the 2026 FIFA World Cup is Spain. Steve, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. And a special watch party was held in Times Square to coincide with the World Cup draw. U.S. soccer players Matt Turner, Matt Freese, and Tim Ream were on hand for the festivities. Most of the crowd was from the tri-state, but some international fans were there too. Emotions were high as each ball was drawn, and Team USA fans seemed happy with the results.
I think the group is very winnable, and I'm making plans to go to the Bay Area for round of 32.
I'm pretty happy. They're in a good spot, I think. We got Australia, who's one of the weaker pot 2 teams. We got Paraguay, who they just played and beat recently.
All right, now we will not know Team USA's final roster players until May. And remember, Fox 5's your home for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. We'll have stories and features leading up to the big event. Luigi Mangione's bid to exclude some evidence from his trial will continue into next week. The 3 days of witness testimony revealing new details about the case. Fox 5's Sharon Crowley live in the newsroom with the latest. Sharon.
Yes, Steve, a pretrial hearing scheduled to happen today, postponed because Luigi Mangione said he was sick. His defense team arguing key pieces of evidence, like the alleged murder weapon, should not be allowed as in the trial. Now, the hearing is slated to resume on Monday. Mangione's defense team wants the judge to exclude a gun, a notebook, and other items police officers say they found in his backpack when he was arrested last December in Altoona, Pennsylvania at a McDonald's there. Now, Mangione's arrest happening 5 days after United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was shot to death walking down a sidewalk in Midtown Manhattan. Defense lawyers are also trying to suppress some of the statements that Mangione made to police, the evidence key to prosecutors' case. Now, they have said The 9mm handgun found in his backpack matches the firearm used in the killing. Prosecutors also say writings in the notebook laid out Mangione's disdain for health insurers and ideas about killing a CEO at an investor conference. Now, they say that he gave police the same fake name that the alleged gunman used at a New York hostel days before the shooting.
There's so much in that backpack from an evidence standpoint that is important to the prosecution. You have the firearm that they're saying is a match to the one that was used in the crime. You have the quote-unquote manifesto where Luigi Mangione is sort of putting down his musings about things that are relevant to the crime. And there's a lot of evidence in there that the prosecution just will want to have at trial to link Luigi Mangione to this murder, as they have alleged. But the defense right now, they're working hard to keep that out.
And we should point out that Mangione has pled not guilty to state and federal murder charges. The hearing, which started on Monday, could extend through the end of next week. We do expect to hear more testimony from those cops from Altoona, Pennsylvania, who first responded to the McDonald's after getting a tip that the wanted murder suspect was in the restaurant. Steve.
All right, thanks, Sharon. And we're following breaking news out of Jamaica, Queens. Police say a pedestrian was killed after being hit by a scooter. Happened around 6:30 tonight. This is video from Citizen App showing the scene. Police say the 68-year-old victim was crossing the street near 93rd Avenue and 168th Street when he was struck. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. The driver of the scooter remained at scene, and so far no charges have been filed. One of the world's most acclaimed architects has died. Frank Gehry designed some of the most imaginative and iconic buildings around the world, including the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain, the Louis Vuitton Foundation building in Paris, and 8 Spruce Street, the residential skyscraper in the financial district. He won every major prize architecture has to offer. He died today at his home in Santa Monica after a brief respiratory illness. He was 96 years old. Mayor Adams and Mayor-elect Mamdani at odds today over homeless encampments in New York City. The Adams administration says they've cleared out more than 18,000 of these encampments since March of 2022. But according to a 2023 city controller audit, only a small handful of people stayed in a shelter for more than a night after their encampment was cleared. And 95% were quickly back on the streets. The mayor-elect says when he takes office, he will stop sweeps of homeless encampments and pursue a more comprehensive approach to homelessness.
Leaving New Yorkers to sleep and suffer in the cold is unacceptable. And the issue with the encampment sweeps is that they are simply pushing New Yorkers who are living in the cold to another place where they will live in the cold. In 365 days of 2024, this administration did not connect a single New Yorker affected by these sweeps with permanent housing. That is a failure. The imperative that we have is to ensure that New Yorkers are actually being connected with housing. That will be the focus of my administration.
And Mamdani says this new policy will start when he takes office in January. A CDC advisory panel rolling back a universal hepatitis B vaccine recommendation that all babies get the vaccine the day they are born. The members of the panel, all handpicked by Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr., who is a longtime skeptic of vaccines. 3 members of the CDC's advisory committee, however, say there is no data that supports the decision, and the idea of changing the policy is being pulled out of thin air. Netflix announcing a massive deal to buy Warner Brothers Discovery for $72 billion. If approved, it would put 2 of the world's biggest streaming services under the same roof. Netflix would acquire HBO and HBO Max, as well as Warner Brothers film and TV studios. It's not clear yet if Netflix and HBO Max would remain separate or they would combine, and that merger will likely face antitrust concerns, but could close in the next year to year and a half. Well, it is the most divisive issue of the holiday season. Is a real Christmas tree better than a fake one? Whether you pull out the axe or the cardboard box, one of the options definitely may be better for your wallet. And the #1 most stressful airport in the world is right here in the tri-state, the airport that topped that list.
Bring a little joy.
You're watching the 10 o'clock news.
Holiday travel already stressful enough, but it might be worse for people in the tri-state. A new study shows 2 of our 3 major airports are among the most stressful in the world. Fox 5's Meredith Gorman takes a look at the list.
A new global study names Newark Liberty Airport the most stressful in the world. Researchers with iSelect, an Australia-based travel insurance comparison company, rated 50 major airports on everything from check-in and security to layout and on-time performance. Newark scored just 18.46 out of 100, with the lowest marks for check-in and customs. It also ranked near the bottom for getting to the airport and security checks.
I do not agree with that statement. Coming to Newark was so easy. I just got here from Austin, getting through the terminal, just follow the signs, everything is lit up. Makes it so easy.
We didn't really have any complications. Our bags came pretty quick. Everything was kind of self-explanatory.
But not everyone feels that way. Long security lines, slow processing, and baggage delays are key reasons Newark landed last on the list.
If you want to talk about stressful, 2 wheels have just come off of my suitcase from the carousel, and now I have to trip like 2 hours with a suitcase that I can't even wheel around.
Flight performance also dragged Newark down. The airport had higher than average departure delays, but experts say it's not just Newark. All New York area airports can be challenging due to congestion, aging infrastructure, and crowded airspace. JFK was ranked the 4th most stressful airport in the world on the same list.
I truly don't believe that Newark is all that much worse than JFK or LaGuardia. They share the same general airspace, and that airspace is too crowded, which leads to delays and cancellations.
Newark is working to improve. A new Terminal A is open, and a multi-billion-dollar air train replacement is underway. Experts hope these upgrades will help, though some issues named in the study are bigger than the airport itself.
I don't think staffing issues is as important in terms of stopping the delays and cancellations at the New York City airports as having a new system. Right now, our system is one of the oldest on the planet.
So if you're flying in or out of Newark Airport, give yourself some extra time, because the world's most stressful airport is not where you will want to be cutting it close. Reporting from Newark, I'm Meredith Gorman, Fox 5 News.
Yankees legend and Hall of Famer CC Sabathia and his wife hosted their annual holiday caravan. The event welcomed 150 kids from the John Grimm Madison Boys and Girls Club. They got to enjoy the Nickelodeon universe at American Dream in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Incredible to be able to, come back and still put on this Christmas caravan in retirement. Me and my wife, Amber, started the Pitch-In Foundation in 2008 to help kids in the inner city through sports and education. And, I'm a kid that grew up in the Boys and Girls Club, and I understand what it means, around this time to, have a Christmas.
Kids also got to shop at a special pop-up store in the spirit of the holidays. Well, Christmas lovers are quick to draw a line in the sand over their tree preferences. Some love a fake fir, while others enjoy a freshly cut pine. But our Richard Giacobbe found out both are going to cost you big bucks this year.
Constantine Pantazis and his family always spent Christmas morning opening presents under a fake tree.
Well, growing up, we had the artificial tree, and we attached a lot of memories to that tree.
But those faux Fraser firs are costing more this holiday season, forcing Constantine to break tradition and go with a blue spruce this year.
You look at it and say to yourself, what do we need to do here? Do we need to make the memories? And sometimes you may have to overpay for that.
Rising costs of artificial trees is being blamed on tariffs. Most imitation trees are made in China. And according to a study from the American Christmas Tree Association, prices are up 10 to 15%, something interior designer Christopher Schultz-Finley says he can vouch for.
The majority of my time is shopping and going from store to store, figuring out which prices are better than other prices. I think finding the best value for each customer is most important.
Over at Danny's Christmas Trees and Wreaths in Eastchester, Pete DeMeglio says his sales of real trees are the highest they've ever been.
I think the reason why is because of the tariffs with China, that they have raised all the prices on the artificial trees. So now, you got to remember, this is a once-a-year purchase for a live tree.
About 75% of the trees here at Danny's are grown in the U.S., right up in New Hampshire. And not only is that great for U.S. agriculture and the environment, but It also saves on the cost. But even if you come here and you purchase one of the largest trees for $500, Pete says you can't beat the memories or the tradition.
And when you wake up in the morning and you smell the pine and it smells fresh, I mean, who doesn't want that? That's Christmas.
Constantine and crew, meanwhile, say for now, they're sticking with that real-life blue spruce for the long term, needles and all.
I'm a little traditionalist, too. So since the tradition now started with the kids and they like it, I have to keep it that way.
Sprucing things up in Eastchester, Richard Giacovas, Fox 5 News.
All right, well, cold weather is going to continue through the weekend. Nick is in next with the forecast.
Jobs are available with the City of New York today. Get connected to career opportunities as a teacher, school nurse, correction officer, taxi inspector, and more. Whether you're starting out or looking for a change, there's a place for you with the City of New York. Start right now at deliveringforyou.nyc or call 212-386-5000. Hiring professionals are waiting to help.
Work with NYC is where you're meant to be. Hey.
Deliveringforyou.nyc.
On the
Well, this is like a day in late January, early February versus early December, and we just got to the high of 32. It has been struggling all day to get out of the 20s, and we started out at 20 this morning. 47, 37, that's average. We're not getting there, though, in this entire 7-day forecast. Might get close middle of next week, but that's about as close as we're going to get, as you'll see. 70 and 11 in the records department. Right now in New York, again, 32. It is rather cloudy. Wind light out of the northeast or calm. Humidity is up a little bit. Pressure continues to fall. 30% average 0.05 with a storm system moving at us more from the south, but most of that action is going to stay much farther to our south. It hasn't moved out of the 20s all evening either as you go up north. Poughkeepsie's been stuck at 26, 20 there at Monticello, 20s across to Hartford, high 20s Bridgeport. Look at this. The Hamptons, though, jumped to 37 now, 33 at Belmar, then back to the 20s as you head towards eastern Pennsylvania. Again, a calm wind or a northeast wind. It'll stick around that way at about 5 miles per hour tonight. And high temperatures, here they are, not so high, stayed in the 20s. All north of town today, 32 in the city, just happened 35 down at Belmar, but it's cold all through the northeast. Look at Albany, only 25, Boston, upper 20s today, same for Syracuse, 27. State College in Harrisburg matching those numbers, went above freezing Philadelphia on southward, but nothing too dramatic to write about. I can tell you that. It was those cold air is entrenched across the Ohio Valley as well. Pittsburgh 30, Chicago 30. That's happened in the last 1 to 2 hours. And 20s just about everywhere else. All right, here's a close-up satellite view. Yeah, a couple little flurries trying to pop up here, and that's the issue, as there is moisture off to our south, and the question is how much farther to the north does it get? We got a couple of, let's see if our system wants to cooperate here, a couple of areas of some snow showers or a little light snow, maybe a little spotty drizzle or freezing drizzle might move in, so we're going to keep an eye out for that. And then eventually this cold front's going to come by. That's going to be by late Sunday. That's going to reinforce the cold air into the early part of next week, so we'll go through this again Monday on into Tuesday. All right, take a look at our futurecast overnight and watch again on the northern flank of this system. There's some of that little light snow or snow showers. Again, where the temperature goes above freezing, it could be a little drizzle or a little light freezing drizzle, a little light rain, and then that kind of continues to about mid to late Saturday morning. Then we'll get some improvement, maybe little breaks of sun in the afternoon, more clearing tomorrow night. But then as we get into Sunday, we may start with some sunshine, but then the clouds come in. This system will pass to our north and west, likely to dry out before it gets here. So I don't really think we're going to get any of that moisture, but it will turn colder once again after that system passes. So tonight, kind of hovering where we're at now, 31, 32 degrees, 20s in the suburbs, a little light snow or snow showers, maybe a little drizzle or freezing drizzle. Same deal tomorrow morning. A lot of clouds the rest of the day as we hit 42. 40 on Sunday, sun to clouds, windy on Monday. Whoa, back down to 32. 20 Tuesday morning, back to the 30s in the afternoon. Little rain later Wednesday, may linger a bit into Thursday. That's about as warm as we're going to get because it gets a little cold again on Friday. And we got more of the 10 o'clock news when we come right back.
Fighting for justice.
It's the dream we all share, to be anything and go anywhere. So if you need room for your family, your gear, side hustle, or anything else, get the SUV designed for your dream. The Ford Explorer, America's all-time best-selling SUV. It's time to see Ford in a new light. Experience the legendary Ford Explorer for yourself. Visit your local Ford store for a test drive.
That does it for us tonight. If you missed any part of the 10 o'clock news, you can always catch an encore on our free streaming app, Fox Local, where you can stream our newscast anytime. Have a great night.